The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane.
26th, 2020, episode 213. And this week, Masked Waccine Wizards. And I am not your echo chamber, but I am your buddy Basil.
And this is Gons. Welcome to episode number 213. We're the Gangsta Clique, Basil. Did you know that?
That's always been us. I did not know that until I got my rap lesson from my favorite rapper, Gons.
Well, you don't. I'm surprised you didn't know about 213. Maybe you're too young.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why I wouldn't know about that, but we can call it that. That makes me feel a little better about it. Yeah. So let's see, what's today? Today is Friday. We made it through another week of 2020 Gons. Congratulations. I think we need to start, giving out blue ribbons every week. We make it through this very strange time.
Was blue the first place ribbon or was red? I think red was second place, right? I'm trying to remember all the colored ribbons.
Gons, that's so sad that you don't know what that? Color the first place ribbon is. Of course it's blue.
Okay. All
Did
right.
you just not win enough blue ribbons?
I was winning medals, not ribbons. So
okay. Okay. Watch out, everybody. Okay. Well, anything exciting happened since Wednesday's show?
No. Not enough sleep is pretty much what I've been getting.
Yeah, that's about the same over here. So I think we're in the same I don't know, same something. Bag, box.
Same cage that we're trying to rattle ourselves out of.
Yeah, rattle the cage, everybody. Yeah. Well, we're happy everybody's here. It's a Friday. All my viewer counts are all messed up. I don't know how you're doing over there, but I have no idea how many people are tuning in. But whoever's here, I'm glad you're here. Looking in the chat here, seeing some familiar faces. And I want to take a second and thank everybody who listens to the RSS feed, the old school classic podcast feed.
Yeah.
All equipped with much better sound quality.
Yeah, no skipping,
good for you guys.
No cutting out. Just
stream
us,
emergencies.
Just the raw version of us going, "Oh, we dropped. Oh no. Oh, look at the kilobytes per second. It's way down."
And everybody needs to join in the prayer group here to make sure that no emergencies happen to today's stream. We've already been having some internet issues over on your side, Gons, but we'll be praying for a supernaturally speedy connection today.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Please, Lord, we need it. The internet here dropped right before we went online. Like everything.
I know. Just
apart,
as a little tease, a little teaser. We are getting things going and. Boom, no internet for Gons, but we'll see how it goes.
It's fine.
Okay, well, do you want to jump right into a Flippy update?
Let's do it.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
Okay, here we go, everybody. We're going to be checking in on our good buddy Flippy. If you don't know Flippy, let me introduce you. Flippy is the name we have for the disembodied robot arm, originally flipping burgers, but now he is finding ways to steal all our jobs, enslave our children, and flirt with our spouses. Use it as a proxy conversation for robotics worming their way into all of the different professions and different corners of our life, sometimes without us even knowing. So today, Gons, I'm on digitaltrends.com, and the article is titled Rehab Robot Exoskeleton Helps Stroke Patients with Physical Therapy. All right, so watch out, physical therapists, because over the past few years, robot exosuit technology that's capable of augmenting human movement with high-tech components has gone from a sci-fi dream to a tech reality. Many of these wearable robots focus on augmenting the strength of their users for applications like lifting heavy objects in factories. However, an upper body robot exosuit developed by researchers at Austin, Texas-based Harmonic Bionics takes a different track. Ooh, Harmonic Bionics. That's a fun name. Designed to be used for both arms in a seated position, Harmony SHR is a rehab robot exosuit intended to be utilized as part of the physical therapy for stroke patients or those with some other injury that limits mobility. It features 2 articulated arms that support the weight of the user's arms and move them through pre-programmed exercises that can be customized for each user. It can also function in a mode in which the robot assists just one arm, which follows the patient-driven movement of the opposite arm. Quote, Harmony SHR is an upper extremity comprehensive therapy for both arms, reads the description of the wearable therapy robot. Ooh, therapy robot. Ooh. When combined with Harmony SHR's weight support mode, this unique shoulder design may allow for earlier initiation of post-stroke therapy. Harmony SHR's pre-programmed exercises promotes functional treatment through patient-specific movements that can enable an number of repetitions per session without placing a larger arm movements and synchronizing that motion onto the stroke-affected side to help reestablish neural pathways. So there you go, Gon's pissed. Helping patients to build up strength and confidence by getting them to complete repetitions of certain movements. But unlike a human physical therapist, Harmony SHR could theoretically carry out unlimited repetitions without tiring. It is also possible that patients might be able to access the robot in clinical settings where there is not necessarily a physical therapist available. This is just one more example of how robots are being used in healthcare and rehabilitation, whether it's wearable robots for helping people to walk or help restore movement through training, medical interventions carried out with the aid of surgical robots, or even emotional support robots. No robots aren't going to be replacing healthcare professionals in any of these capacities, but they're increasingly going to be lending a hand, or in this case, maybe even 2 of them. Watch out, physical therapists. Harmonic Bionics is coming for you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, body doesn't move in a certain angle. It's going to just, the robot's not going to know. And it's really interesting because, my days as a muscle memory. And so you grab their wrists of the little kids, you get their heads, you dunk them underwater, and you literally move their arms in the way they're supposed to. But as a human that way, but a robot's not going to make it if they're not going to make it. But and every body's a little bit different, flexibility, all that kind of stuff. But a human being, have robots.
What are you, anti-robot, Gons?
Well, I'm just concerned about the person that's going to say, ow, ow, and the robot's going to...
that we've seen of the attempt to replace a lot of professions or vocations that really kind of count on the human touch of things. They're even talking about emotional support robots, things like that, where, a lot of times you kind of do need that human touch to help you get through a problem. And or now, I don't know. Have you ever had to do physical therapy?
Yeah, plenty growing up. Okay. Had a lot of issues with the shoulders, rotator cuff, the whole deal. I think our stream is having a lot of problems. I'm seeing very low bit rate over here. And I think people are complaining.
Well, I don't see anybody complaining in the chat yet.
Oh,
but
I
Adam
did.
42,
It already passed up. You're not paying attention.
Adam 42 does say his wife is a physical therapist, so they got to watch out.
Oh, yeah. Be careful. Well, they're going to start bringing it into the physical therapy office at first, Hey, we have this machine over here. That's how it's going to start. And then eventually...
The revolution against the machines will start by sabotaging all these machines, coming in to work alongside human beings. Of course, that's what they say about Flippy. Yeah. But you never know. You never know.
I know. Never know.
All right. What do you got?
We have a ton of Rona stuff. I mean, tons. I mean, that's the second coming of the Rona is here. And so we're going to start off. Sources tell ESPN, and I'm not sure if this is, it's a tweet, so I don't know if this is like 16 over the course of when they, since they shut it down, or right now getting ready to get the whole NBA started up again. So, not about that, but it looks like they're just going to keep.
I also did read one teams to have voluntary participation in preseason workouts in many college teams. And you talk to some of the players and they apparently said, yes, technically it's voluntary, but we all know it's not real. 150 of these collegiate football players came down with COVID.
Wow. Well, interesting.
Yeah.
The college realm is going to change a lot too with some of the new rules about having the college athletes get paid and how they can have sports, football, basketball. Some of those athletes get
going on for years, isn't it?
Yep. That are, destined to become professionals. It's just no point to really do college anymore, especially with the money situation. But we digress. There's another quick update here, and this is going to launch us into the whole craziness here. But Anthony Fauci, Daddy Fauci, came out, and I was disappointed to see hashtag Dr. Fauci trending on Twitter here by KPix5. It's a local news outlet. Hashtag Dr. Fauci says that in decades of working with infectious diseases, I have never seen anything that is so protean in its ability to make people sick or not. Use the word
I've never seen anything that is so protean in its ability to make people sick or not. There's no other infectious disease that goes from 40% of the people having no symptoms to some having mild symptoms, to some having severe, some requiring staying at home for weeks, some going to the hospital, some getting intensive care, some getting intubated, some getting ventilated, and some dying. So that depending on where you are in that spectrum, you have a different attitude to this particular thing. But anyone who gets the dynamic process of the outbreak, and
okay, so there it is. And protein, meaning it's like ever changing. It's like because based on the strain
at one point,
you get,
there's 42 different strains.
Right. So I don't know. It's a little sensationalized, I would say, to suggest that it just mutates so much. But I'm not a scientist, and science is not true.
There was another quote. There was another quote from Fauci where I think it was Fauci. I could be corrected on that, but some professional, I believe it was Fauci, said, just because the virus is mutating doesn't mean it's changing. Okay.
So which one is it? Is it changing and we can't keep up?
Yeah, to a question about the vaccine, like, oh, what if you make the vaccine and it mutates? Just because it mutates doesn't mean it changes. Okay, whatever you say, you're the professional.
Yeah. Plus, if you guys remember, listeners out there and producers and knights, last episode we talked about the Chan Zuckerberg biolab doing tests and saying that, the changes are in a sweet spot where we can, track the different changes and the dynamic of how it spreads. So I don't know. It's just there's so much conflicting information coming out from all different sides, and that'll be a theme as we go through all the stories here today.
Well, here's not a change. In fact, just another one that we called Gons. Hit me with that COVID flush. That's right. And also, I think it's time we hit that mom jingle.
Mother, there is no other like mother. So treat her right, Come on.
Come on. Okay, this is dailymail.co.uk. The article is titled Mums Who Have Been Secretly Stockpiling Toilet Paper Since the Coronavirus Outbreak Began Proudly Showing Off Their Huge Stashes as Panic Buying Takes Off in Australia Again. And yes, we called it last episode. The toilet paper hoarding is about to start. I mentioned how the toilet paper aisles had never recovered from the initial stockpiling frenzy, and now we found out why. The article reads, mothers who have been stockpiling toilet paper since the coronavirus outbreak are showing off their huge stashes on social media as supermarkets bring back its shopping restrictions nationwide following a spike in panic buying in Melbourne. Okay, so we're talking about Australia here. From Friday, shoppers can only buy 1 packet of toilet paper at Kohl's, while Woolworths customers have a 2-limit purchase. The shock announcement comes after both supermarket giants were forced to reintroduce shopping limits on essential products in Victoria. Despite the restrictions, super organized bulk buyers revealed in a Facebook group they have been preparing themselves after struggling to get their hands on toilet paper during the coronavirus isolation in Australia. Quote, who here has a toilet paper stockpile? Surely I'm not the only one. Since the crazies took all the loo paper a few months ago, I have actually started to hoard it now. I currently have 13 packs of loo paper, making that 232 rolls, one woman said. Many shoppers responded to the thread admitting they have been bulk buying toilet paper over the weeks, while others said they have been preparing their fully stocked cupboards or spare room long before the COVID-19 outbreak. Quote, I've been buying a 20-pack every week instead of every fortnight. Okay.
Bringing back the fortnight. You wanted that, didn't you? Or somebody wanted that.
Bringing back Fortnite? Yeah, I think, that, wow, good memory. That was a long time ago I mentioned that. So I've got a little bit of stashed, one woman said. Another mother said, I'm starting to buy an extra packet of toilet paper each time I go shopping, waiting for the second wave to hit. Some shoppers revealed they started their toilet paper stockpiling because they didn't want to line up at 6 a.m. again, while one mother said she had no choice but to start a stockpile for her family of 6 after she struggled to get her hands on basic items during the isolation. So there you go, Gons. Did you spend your time stockpiling toilet paper the past month or so?
Not really. We have a stash, but not really thinking that the second wave is going to become so crazy that we need that toilet paper is going to be the first.
Yeah, I think concern. People realized after the first one that toilet paper is not the absolute most essential. I did buy a spare bidet, though. So I've got a bidet and a spare bidet just in case my luxury item breaks down in the apocalypse.
Wonderful. Yeah, you recommended to everybody that's the way to go.
That's the way to go. I'm telling you, it'll change your life. They're like $30. And it's a whole new way of living. You got to get used to it, but it's so fresh. Okay, there you go. So there's the toilet paper update.
The COVID, that is weird that this whole COVID thing, the last like 3 or 4 episodes, we've had something to do with the restroom being associated with the whole COVID situation.
We're just becoming a potty show, Gons. What is happening to us?
COVID. News.yahoo.com. Miami City Commission passes measure to fine people not wearing masks.
Yep.
And I got a story. We got a video here. We'll play it. It's only about, I only got about 45 seconds of it to play here. Let's check it out.
If we don't, want to re-implement a stay-at-home order, we've got to take this action now.
City of Miami Mayor Francis Suarez commended the commission today for supporting a series of punishments for residents who violate a mandate to wear masks in public after a spike of COVID-19 cases. A written arrest known as a promise to appear is for those but
So, yeah, they got a whole set of fines for people that don't wear masks.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Fine, third one for 150 or what? I don't understand the increments there, but I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 warnings, and then you get arrested. Last resort is arrest. Last resort. Yeah. You're so dangerous, we must arrest you because you're not wearing a mask.
What's so interesting about this? America has been getting a new series of slams across the board, specifically about masks. Wear a mask. What are you doing? The protests and public gatherings, but no. It's because of the masks.
Right.
When countries like Sweden didn't enforce masks and were going for that herd immunity, and I don't even think they're on the graph of second wave victims. Same with Italy. Italy had some huge social pushback for lockdowns and masks and things like that. And they too something is going on in the United States that's causing this second wave. And it's not just masks. It's too simple to just be masks.
Yeah, well, it seems to be.
Especially since over and over. I mean, the CDC continues to reiterate that they do not suggest wearing a mask unless you are already sick.
Right. Well, I think they changed that a little bit in like May or something. But yeah, I mean, part of it too is the political climate here, election year, and the whole. And we'll get to the Chaz thing. The whole civil unrest took over for a little while, and that kind of died off. They got their burning cities and statues toppling over and all that kind of stuff, and that sort of wore off a little bit. So now it's time for Fauci and Bill Gates to pop their head out again, and just a timing issue.
We can't have people going out.
Yeah, can't have people enjoying,
maybe if
celebrating the country.
I have a plan. We have a Black Lives Matter protest. It's a Black Lives Matter water ski protest. It's where we all go to the lake, go boating, go water skiing, in solidarity with Black Lives Matter. That way COVID should be fine. Nothing will pop up.
I see what you're doing there. There's another story, and this looks weird because I was trying to figure out how to turn off the auto play of the video. And so I just changed it to a text-only article. But KGW.com, Oregon man jailed after refusing to wear face mask in court. Municipal court judge issued a warrant for failure to appear in contempt of court after this is Sweet Home, Oregon. In the small town of Sweet Home, Oregon, a man said his refusal to wear a mask landed him in jail. We're in unprecedented time, he said. Ray Towery, Sweet Home city manager. We're all kind of learning as we go through this. Towery's been fielding a lot of questions about what happened in Sweet Home Municipal Court Wednesday. John J.T. Colbeth appeared on Harassment and radio show. Quote, when I checked into the clerk's window, the clerk promptly told me, well, you need to have a face mask. I was confused and said, well, I don't, and I'm not going to because I have enough breathing issues as it is. She goes, well, the judge is going to disagree with that. He did. Towery said Judge Larry Blake Jr. didn't back down on face mask requirements. Quote, Blake said, you need to wear a mask, and again, Colbeth refused, said Towery. The judge said, well, you don't really have a choice, essentially. And Mr. Colbeth said, well, then I'm going to leave. And he left. Colbeth said he tried to explain his health reasons for not wearing a mask to the judge. I said, I have enough respiratory issues as it is, but I'm more than willing to come back another day. And he didn't like that idea, said Colbeth. So finally I said, fine, I'll just leave. Minutes later, the Sweet Home police chief, it just sounds funny, the Sweet Home police chief arrested Colbeth in a parking lot and booked him into the city's jail for failure to appear in contempt of court. So, I guess I can read the rest of it. It's not really terribly important other than not wearing a mask. It feels like the judge was bitter about something and used that against him. And I get it. He walked out in a situation, but he was there. He did show up. That's precisely the thing.
That's how they get you.
I saw this along with this whole thing, this article or this medrxiv.org, I guess, study has been sort of making the rounds, at least on my social medias. And the title of the study is Face Mask Wearing Rate Predicts Country's COVID-19 Death Rates. And it's not, it says in this article is a preprint and has not been certified by peer review. So it's not been peer reviewed, and the abstract is kind of technical, so, we won't read it. But basically the whole idea is, based on the numbers, we can prove scientifically or statistically anyway, that it's truth.
Reviewed.
It's not peer reviewed, but yeah, science. And then we got one more before we move on here, but this this video, 10-second video, Tobias Elwood, I guess he's a reporter, lets slip the communist plans, no coronavirus vaccine, no go to places like beaches.
We need to make sure that no beach is seen like we saw yesterday. Those scenes were unacceptable given this enduring pandemic. Until there's a vaccine, we should not be seeing behavior like this.
Like going to the beach, that kind of behavior.
No, we can't allow that.
Without a vaccine or Waccine, we can't have this kind of behavior. Going to the beach.
Yeah. So what was he saying? Is he saying we need a Waccine to go to the beach?
Yes. That's what's coming,
folks. I could have told you that.
I know, but I mean, it's just more of the same, and more of that. Guilt tripping people, and man, the news media. It's just so bad. I just really don't like it.
Well, let's get the scoop, Gons. Let's check in on one of our favorite four horsemen of the technocalypse and what he has to say.
We're taking things that are genetically modified organisms and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right in.
Go.
Even close.
Bill Gates says, people, pick up your game. Extinction of the human race. If you could get any more bleak than that. But if you say so, okay, more bleak than he would have expected. Speaking to CNN's Anderson Cooper and Dr. Sanjay Gupta in a coronavirus town hall, Gates said the fact that people are still dying in the U.S. today shows that the country is not even close to doing enough to fight the pandemic.
Wait, hold on, though.
Quote.
Hold on, before you go on, couldn't you say that about anything that kills people? Like any topic that continuously kills people? You can say, the country's not doing enough.
People are still dying in the U.S. today.
Yeah. I mean, car crash.
That is interesting.
People can use all kinds. I mean, I don't know.
Gates said the fact that people are still dying in the U.S. today shows that the country is not even close to doing enough to fight the pandemic. He didn't say dying of coronavirus or dying in connection to coronavirus. Just the fact that we haven't solved immortality shows that we're not even close to doing enough to fight the pandemic.
Transhuman technocrat.
Yes, it's possible to ramp up testing for a new pathogen very, very fast, he says. Okay. In fact, a number of countries did that extremely well in this case, and the technology keeps getting better there. The U.S. in particular hasn't had the leadership messages or coordination that you would have expected. Okay,
isn't he the leader?
That's a good
Bill
point.
was the leader.
Yeah, Bill's our leader. Come on, pick up your leadership messages. That's the thing. When it comes to this coronavirus thing, it's all about leadership messages or coordination. Anyways, 8 weeks ago, when Gates was last a guest on CNN's Town Hall, the death toll in America stood at 63,000, with more than 1 million cases recorded. Today, those figures have doubled. There are at least 2.4 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the U.S. and more than 122,000 people have died, according to Johns Hopkins University data. That's interesting that it's only up, but then actually, Birx came out, a lot of people came out and admitted that they had not been counting this correctly. And on the CDC website, they about halved the number. Again, this was about a month or two ago. But apparently now we've climbed back up to 122,000. Gates attribute. Okay.
But haven't the numbers. Anyway.
You don't question.
I'm sorry. I keep questioning the
Gates.
the Fauci Gates Foundation.
And there's an interesting back and forth on the topic of the testing as well. Because, of course, Trump getting lambasted for his quote that we're testing too fast. We need to slow down testing. We've increased testing quite a bit. Then people saying that's bad. Don't slow down testing. And now Gates referring to a lack of testing and the contact tracing. I mean, pretty much everybody had contact tracing. So now we still have a lack of testing and a lack of contact tracing, even though everybody automatically had it updated on their phone. Anyways, moving on. Quote, the range of people being very conservative in what they do, like not going out and, protesting and things like that. And some people ignoring the epidemic.
Yeah, he was quiet during the...
Of course, he's not referring to that.
Well, I know, but he was quiet during the whole protest time. A good month or 2 months of protest time. He
didn't want to get, called a racist.
Yeah, there you go. Now that's died down.
All right. Quote, some people almost feel like it's a political thing, which is unfortunate, he added. Something he says he didn't something he says he didn't expect in America. Bill, have you ever been to America? Everything is politicized.
Plus, his experience in America is probably a little different than most non-billionaires.
He didn't go to a grocery store. He was on the Ellen Show a little while ago. I just saw a video floating around of what he basically played. What's that? Basically, like a version of The Price is Right, where he would guess the prices of regular objects in the grocery store, and of course is wildly wrong on everything. It reminds me, did you ever watch Arrested Development?
Yes, long time ago.
Yes, it's $25, and that was like Bill Gates trying to guess how much a bag of Tostino's pizza rolls were. All right, continuing. Gates it completely false. He also expressed disappointment with what he called a lack of U.S. leadership to tackle this virus globally, which has led to developing countries such as Brazil and India bearing the brunt of the disease. However, he said he remains hopeful that the U.S. America will get the vaccine to everyone in the world.
I'm surprised it's political, but I'm really disappointed in our U.S. leadership.
Come on, yeah, right. If only our leadership wasn't so bad. I don't know why anybody thinks this is political. Oh, I hate Trump so much.
CNN is so... even in their written articles, they just contradict themselves like 4 or 5 times within the written. The written word is just as bad.
Is new?
Yeah, I know. It's just funny.
So then it goes into vaccine stuff. Do we want to finish out this article, or will other stuff fill in the gaps?
It's pretty long, and I don't think it's not super long, but maybe skip through the vaccine stuff because we got more on that coming, but go down to the new normal section there.
Yeah, this ends with a new normal. Asked whether society would accept this virus as a way of life. What? Like it has accepted mass shootings. What?
What?
Gates said he hopes not. Oh, CNN, you're killing me, Smalls. Asked whether society would accept this virus as a way of life, like it has accepted mass shootings. Who has accepted mass shootings as a way of life? What are they talking about here? We will never have a shortage of the media reminding us of this tragedy, emphasizing the inequity of the disease against the elderly, minorities, and healthcare workers. Quote, right now, if you're in a nursing home, like if you're a Democratic governor in your state, forced to be worried about getting this and possibly dying. Okay. Quote, this is more than the kids that died in Vietnam, and that was a great national tragedy, he said. We didn't ignore that. This is greater than that. What are you talking about? This is Lindsay's. In one article, what is this virus like? Well, this virus is like putting your grandma and grandpa in prison. This virus is like Vietnam.
School shootings.
This virus is like how we've all accepted mass shootings as a way of life. I don't know why it's so politicized. This is just the most ridiculous. I know people know this already, but I hope somebody out there.
Surprised it still happens. I'm honestly surprised. The whole. Do they have? I don't know. Their editors must be. Obviously they're just as bad here because
You're talking about CNN?
CNN, I'm sorry. Yeah, CNN's.
Well, they got that little wake up call during the riots, where
Right.
the are back on CNN than we think.
Yeah, for sure. I just like this sentence. He said older people were right to be worried about getting this and possibly dying. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just such like of course. I think most older people are, have thought about their demise. I mean, the older I get, I definitely think about it more. No fun.
Well, in connection with this, we don't need to redo any jingles or anything, but just in connection real briefly, we'll head over to businessinsider.com with an article titled Bill Gates Says the Final Hurdle to a COVID-19 vaccine to distributing a COVID-19 vaccine will be ensuring that people decide to take it.
Such a sneaky way to say it, We have to ensure that they decide to take it. Yeah. You still have free will, but
we're not going to force you to take it. We're just going to force you to decide to take it.
Exactly. Okay, sorry.
Given the urgency of the pandemic, testing vaccine candidates with a wide variety of populations and age groups can prove challenging. No kidding. Still, Gates believes that a lot of people will take the vaccine when it becomes available and believes herd immunity can be achieved if 70 to 80% of people take it. That would be great. I hope, whoever wants it can take it. And I hope I get to be in that 20 to 30% that can maybe scoot by it if I have the option.
I was hoping that the Business Insider would have a little more credibility here, but then the very first sentence just references Bill Gates and what he said in the recent interview with CNN. So there you go. It references back to that CNN article, well, not the article itself, but the interview.
Yeah.
I mean, that should give it away. Bill Gates choosing to be on out of all the outlets he can do interviews on, he picks CNN. If that doesn't tell you that this is a whole controlled message, then I don't know what to tell you.
They're best buds. That's the thing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Okay, and one quick connected article here, again, just to cruise through. This is on truepundit.com, so take that for what you will.
Yeah.
It says, exclusive, Bill Gates negotiated $100 billion contact tracing deal with Democratic Congressman, sponsor of bill 6 months before coronavirus pandemic. So this is, this is kind of interesting. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation helped negotiate who would score a $100 billion government-backed backed contact tracing contract in August of 2019, 6 months before the pandemic arrived in the United States and 4 months before it swept through China. The shocking revelations were unveiled on the Thomas Paine podcast. A little plug for somebody else's podcast there. Whoopsies. And the More Pain Show on Patreon by the two investigators who blew the whistle on the massive Clinton Foundation tax fraud during a congressional hearing. So obviously this is a right-leaning outlet here. John Moynihan and Larry Doyle testified in Congress detailing the fraud and schemes utilized by the Clintons to avoid paying up to $2.5 billion in federal taxes. The investigative duo in their first interview. Okay, so we're just advertising another podcast here.
It's interesting, and if you want to dig more into the Bill Gates stuff, and if you haven't, definitely go over to the Corbett report. It's probably the best place I've seen to bring together all the factual informations, and he actually just stepping and not directly addressing the claims being made in scientific papers too, about Bill Gates and his dealings in Africa and stuff like that. So. With the polio vaccine and all that stuff. So if you want to really get into it, there's plenty of information out there. But James Corbett report, check that out. I'd rather promote the Corbett report than the Thomas Paine thing. But the headline was enticing enough just to get the idea out there that there's a lot of
in many ways.
Yes.
Okay, that's enough about Bill for now.
For now, you'll be back, Bill Gates.
COVID. Waccine.
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 This is cbsnews.com. And I don't remember if I had this video ready to go, but this is basically UK launches human trial for COVID-19 vaccine, or Waccine. It is just a video. I thought I had a written article here. Should I play the clip? Should we risk it?
Let's see what it says. Yeah.
Coronavirus has transformed all our lives, and although restrictions are easing, there's only one certain way out of the pandemic, one way to protect us all from the virus, to return society to normal, and that's a vaccine.
Waccine.
Never has science responded so fast to a global health threat. What usually takes years has been done in months. There are now more than 120 coronavirus vaccines in early development. 13 have begun human trials, 5 in China, 3 in the United States, 2 in the UK, and 1 each in Australia, Germany, and Russia. We'll need several to work if there's to be enough doses to protect 7 billion people on the planet. After Oxford University, now Imperial College London is the latest to begin trials. Kathy, who's 39, is one of 300 volunteers who'll receive the Imperial vaccine. She'll get a second booster dose in 4 weeks. Why did you volunteer?
I think it came from not really knowing what I could do to help, and this turned out to be something that I could do, and understanding that it's not likely that things will get back to normal until there is a vaccine, so wanting to be part of that progress as well.
If the safety trial goes well, a further 6,000 volunteers will be immunised in the autumn. Trials might also need to happen overseas, in virus hotspots, because that's the only way researchers will know for sure if it offers protection.
I wouldn't be working on this trial if I didn't feel cautiously optimistic that we will see great immune responses in our participants. But there's still a long way to go to evaluate this vaccine.
This is a really unusual vaccine. The synthetic genetic code it contains should instruct muscle cells to produce the spike protein found on the surface of coronavirus. That should prompt the creation of antibodies. And that army of antibodies should remain on guard in case of future exposure to coronavirus. And if it works, prevent infection. Because it's all created artificially, with no need to grow any virus, the vaccine can be manufactured on a huge and concentrated scale.
It means that we can make the equivalent of 2 million doses in the volume of a litre. So you imagine a litre bottle of lemonade, that would have 2 million doses in it. So when you want to start making vaccine for the world, if this is successful, and that's still a big if, it makes it so much more tractable because you don't have to build a factory the size of several warehouses.
Imperial College say they could have enough doses ready to immunise 40 million people in the UK by next summer. But trials must first show the vaccine is safe and effective.
There you go. UK launches human trial for COVID-19 vaccine. Interesting points about the synthetic part of this and just how little the liquid they need to actually get it around and shoot people up with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, the route that they're having to take, mostly because of the speed at which they're trying to get this out, and over 100 different vaccines being worked on right now. The one weird thing that kind of weirded me out was we're hoping that multiple of these vaccines, we're working on so many, and we're doing that because we couldn't manufacture enough of one working vaccine, so we need to manufacture a bunch of different kinds of vaccines.
Yeah.
I didn't quite understand. I mean, if you honestly do find one that works, why would you even bother trying to manufacture others? Why wouldn't you just put the same resources to manufacturing the one that works?
Yeah.
So, and of course there's so much money tied up in this thing. And that's the reason why there's so many people working on it. It's because whoever can find the one that works is going to be a bajillionaire.
Right, yeah.
which is
It's a
part
competition.
of the problem with having a profit-driven vaccine market.
Yeah, and along those lines, you brought up a point that actually was part of the next story here, which is from mirror.co.uk. Vaccine professor at Oxford University says little chance proving if it works. And this article is very interesting. A coronavirus vaccine professor at Oxford University says there is now little chance of proving if it works due to low transmission rates in the UK. Professor Sarah Gilbert, leading the University of Oxford vaccine trial, said that when COVID-19 transmission was high, lockdown was imposed to bring the rate down. But since the rates have dropped and the trial relies on a sufficient number of volunteers to have been exposed to the virus to see whether a vaccine protects them or not. However, if their chances of being in contact with an infected person are low, it will take a long time to demonstrate the efficacy of a vaccine candidate. Professor Gilbert told the House of Lords Science and Technology Committee, quote, "Of course, what happened was that because transmission, actually increased much more rapidly than anybody thought was going to happen, we had the lockdown, which fortunately reduced transmission. Quote, not so fortunate for those of us trying to develop vaccines in the UK. So unfortunate that they locked everything down because we now have essentially a very large safety immunogenicity study running in the UK with little chance, frankly, of determining efficacy." She added that the researchers' approach was to work with multiple different countries and are much higher than in the UK. Quote, "They're generating that gives all vaccine developers really helpful information to let them know whether their vaccines are likely to work as well, and whether it will be 1 dose or 2 doses, and in older people and in younger people," she said. And some pictures of people getting shot up. Quote, "So the first efficacy signal is going to be really important, and as yet we don't know which country will be generating that." Professor Gilbert and Professor Robin Shattuck, who is leading the Imperial College of London trial, said they were optimistic about their vaccine approaches, but cautioned that optimism should clinical testing. 10% thinking about. Prof. Gilbert agreed. Prof. Gilbert agreed with Prof. Shattuck, saying that if necessary, quote, "we can combine the vaccines to get something that works even better." She added, "The aim is to protect the population. That doesn't mean the vaccination has to be 100% effective. Even with a 50% efficacy, we can actually go a long way to protect the population." I don't know. I'm not like a virologist, or a chemist, but it's just weird that her mindset is like, oh, if you have 2 that kind of work together, we can combine them into this ultra vaccine that will work so perfectly.
Oh, I love ice cream and I love ketchup. Put them together. It'll make it even better.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah, that sounds like someone who knows nothing about vaccines and science. That sounds like something they would say.
Yeah.
I mean, I barely know enough to talk about it, intelligently, but it's like, hey, if this one works and this one works, put them together.
They both, if it works 50% for this one and 50% for that one, well, we know what 50
that
plus 50 equals.
100%.
It's like not at all how this works. Not even as a layman, I can probably say that's not how this works at all. But anyway, there you go. Oxford University, very skeptical of the whole situation, but that's not the only place that's getting the whole Waccine situation.
Waccine.
No.
Waccine.
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 Okay, let's go to pbs.org. And the title of the article is Africa's first participation in a COVID-19 vaccine trial started Wednesday as nervous volunteers received injections, while officials said the continent of 1.3 billion people cannot be left behind. The large-scale trial of the vaccine developed at the University of Oxford in Britain is being conducted in South Africa, Britain, and Brazil. South Africa has nearly 1/3 of Africa's confirmed cases, with more than 106,000, including more than 2,000 100 deaths. The country late Tuesday reported its biggest one-day death toll of 111. Quote, I feel a little bit scared, but I want to know what is going on with this vaccine so that I can tell my friends and others what is going on with the study. One of the vaccine trial volunteers, Junior Molongo, said in Johannesburg. The African continent now has nearly 325,000 cases as countries loosen restrictions under economic pressure from citizens who say they have to feed their families. Shortages of testing materials and medical supplies remain a problem as Africa could become the world's next hotspot. The pandemic was delayed in Africa, quote, but is picking up speed very quickly. The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Chief John Nkingasong said Wednesday with a steep increase in the number of cases and deaths. Quote, unless we act now, Africa is at risk of being left behind on the global vaccine. He warned a continental discussion and urged that local manufacturing and scientific expertise play a key role. Cameroon, Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, and South Africa all have highly developed clinical trial capabilities, said Salim Abdul Karim, chair of South Africa's Ministerial Advisory Committee for COVID-19. Many other sub-Saharan African countries have also have clinical trial capacity, said Daniel Bausch, director of the UK Public Health Rapid Support Team. Quote, we're not only needing but capable of participating as the world races for a vaccine, South Africa's Health Minister Zweli Mkhize said. African leaders have been outspoken about the continent being elbowed out in the intense global competition for medical supplies in this pandemic, as well as what the World Health Organization's Africa chief, Matshidiso Moeti, called the, quote, distortion of the global market for key items. Who the WHO chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus urged that the initial supply of any COVID-19 vaccine be deployed where it's most needed rather than based on the ability to pay. Good luck with that one.
Yeah.
For coronavirus. In February, just 2 African nations could test for the virus. The continent's first virus case was reported on February 14th. So there you go. Going into full-scale vaccine testing in South Africa, Gons.
South Africa, which we have a tangent story here. Just a coincidence, I'm sure. This is briefly.co.za. South Africa gets its first satanic church, which includes baptism and weddings.
He's a Satanist.
Coincidence?
Coincidence? I don't know. First human testing, first satanic church. I don't know.
Oh, boy.
It's all context, right?
Yeah.
Not going to read the article
it's
here,
interesting how, the mass testing of these vaccines is actually happening in Africa. I mean, they're trying out some vaccines on very small groups of people in Britain, but it sounds like they're trying to do a much bigger testing sample in South Africa.
Yeah.
Which I don't know why they are not as careful with that, but what are you going to do? It's
kind of that depending on what side of the political aisle you fall on, especially with the recent civil unrest type stuff. This is like it's a great thing or it's like a horrible thing, depending on the information because if you're kind of a lib Joe type, it's like, oh, this is great. The African continent, they should get the vaccines first, and then if you're aware of all the stuff that Bill Gates has done over there and just the skepticism of this whole scientific dictatorship, it's like, why are they going to Africa first? It's like the worst. It's like the most racist thing you can do,
and that's the problem too, because it's not even conspiracy theory.
No.
It's publicly known, documented, mainstream media reported issues where when a new vaccine or Bill Gates's record of going out and shoving these needles into hundreds of thousands or millions of people in less developed countries, that's just sick. Because you get the big numbers over there. You really find out what the percentages of ill side effects are, and then you decide what to do from there. But it's one of the great conundrums, the one of the great backwards aspects of specifically Bill Gates and his vaccine setup throughout the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
He's been kicked out of a bunch of countries. He's not even allowed to go to some of these countries.
Didn't Russia? I think Russia banned him and tried to ban Microsoft and the whole deal over there too.
And you had the Italian
Italians, yeah.
The Italian parliament calling for his arrest for international crimes against humanity. I think he got kicked out of India. I know that there's a bunch of political leaders in Africa who don't like the guy. I mean, how does he stay at the top of the heap over here? People just don't pay attention is what it is.
Yeah. I see on Twitter all the time, too, especially people that are, unaware. Like, I read all this social media about Bill Bates. Bill Gates killing people in Africa. Where's the proof? Where's the proof, people? It's like, well, you just got to read some scientific papers and connect some dots, but
all over try reading some news, not from CNN, but read it from other countries.
Yeah,
I mean, these countries themselves are reporting this in mainstream outlets.
They are. It's pretty wild. Before we go into the break, I do want to play this here. This is a Florida woman argues against masks by bringing up the devil, Bill Gates, Hillary Clinton, the pedophiles, 5G, and the deep state. It's quite the rant here, if you're just listening, she has a very familiar voice to a popular or famous congresswoman.
You literally cannot mandate somebody to wear a mask knowing that that mask is killing people. It literally is killing people. And we the people are waking up, and we know what citizen's arrest is, because citizen's arrests are already happening, okay? And every single one of you that are obeying the devil's laws are going to be arrested. And you, doctor, are going to be arrested for crimes against humanity. Every single one of you have a smirk behind that little mask, but every single one of you are going to get punished by God. You cannot escape God. You cannot escape God. I'm going to say that again. You cannot escape God, not even with the mask or 6 feet. Okay? 6 feet, like I said before, is military protocol. You're trying to get the people to train them so when the cameras, the 5G comes out, what? They're gonna scan everybody. We got to get scanned. We got to get temperatured. The kids have to go to school with masks. Are you insane? Are you crazy? I think all of you should be in a psych ward right the heck now, because none of you know what the hell you are all talking about. This is insane. And then you want to open this meeting with a prayer to God. Are you praying to the devil? Because God is not listening to that prayer, because all of you are practicing the devil's laws. What happened to Bill Gates? Why is he not in jail? Why is Hillary Clinton not in jail? Why are all of these pedophiles that are demanding you all to listen to their rules? Why are they not in jail? Oh, is it because you're part of them? Are you part of the deep state? Your time has expired. The deep state is going down. And if any of you are in the deep state, you're going down.
There you go. She goes off there, but hey, I mean,
very familiar voice, Gons.
I know. It's like we got like a right wing AOC clone or something to flip sides or something. Is very interesting.
Yeah, it really is. Very, very AOC like. Yeah. I like how she held back and said heck at one point, but then
couldn't contain it later on.
Couldn't contain it.
Yeah, it's okay. But it's. I go both ways on this one, because on one hand it's like she's definitely more aware of what's going on, and good for her for getting up there and really sticking it to these people up there. On the other hand, this only reinforces from the opposition's point of view that these people over here are crazy. They're all just crazy, you know? And so, man, it's just, I don't know if it's going to do any good, really, in the end.
No.
But at least you got up there and did her thing. So
it's venting and it's putting it out there. And, of course, people who know what she's talking about get pumped on it. But, yeah, you take the position of, just a normal person, and I don't mean to say
normie
compared to abnormal, but yes, a normie. You take the normie position, and she would sound completely out of control. I will say, if you're trying to stand up and actually cause some change or something, I mean, it would be difficult for a normie or a politician to hear that person and be like, you know what, I think she's got a great point.
Yeah. When she's coming at you like that, but you never know. You never know. Maybe if it gets through to one person who's up there and feels very convicted about some of this stuff, you never know. But,
the problem is again, going back to the normie perspective, is it's one thing to try to call out some inconsistencies and back it up with evidence. It's another thing to kind of just yell at someone and tell them they're worshiping the devil. That doesn't really work very often. But as a sound clip, and for people who agree with her, it's definitely a hype clip for sure.
Right. So there you go.
Okay, Gons. Well, let's take a quick break.
It's break time.
Oh.
Come on, take a break.
Looks like I was kicked off the chat.
I still got mine going, so it's still going. You just connect to it.
All right, hold on one second here. You do your thing. I'm gonna try to fix this real quick.
Sounds good. Whoa. Yeah, I can see it on the stream. That's fun. Well, don't go anywhere, people, because we're just going to take a real quick break. But after the break, we're going to be talking about Chaz, some big, huge honking Chaz news, Chaz chop. Things have turned a corner, and some pretty interesting turn of events happening up there in Seattle, Washington, as well as some updates on the beast system and another little we got to see what Elon's up to. So don't go anywhere. But before we do that, we want to thank some of the people who are supporting what we're going for over here, especially over on Twitch. Again, we continue to try to hit our goals over on Twitch. So we want to thank those people who are following us there. I know, you know what? Some people get angry when we thank the Twitch people, but you know what the antidote to that is? Just join Twitch. Follow us on Twitch. We'll give you a shout out as well. Let's see. So, Gons, I don't know what you're doing over there, but if you got a dinger ready, I got some good usernames for you to ding.
It's ready.
Okay. This is the first one. They actually came in during last episode, but definitely on the top list of Twitch users who are following us. Are you ready? It's Baz Boys, what you gonna do?
I like that.
Yeah, Baz Boys. My Baz Boys out there. That's fun. I like that. All right. Moving on, we got Spy the Liar. We got Rainy Days 75. We got Reafem. We got What Name One.
Oh, what happened? Here it is.
We got Cody's Twitch account. Done Is Me. We got Down with the NWO.
I like it.
Brother Zug. The Wire Online. Ashy Blue. That Cool Me guy. Or my guy. Jumunjin 21. Sharon Ma 00. Sarah Connor.
Ooh, Sarah Connor, does she time travel?
Sarah Connor is here. May Fly for Yahweh here. Lore 307. Ooh, I'm going to try my best at this. I'm just going to take a running start. Taki Saneta by color. Tachi Sanita. Oh man. Dale Battaglia. Dale Battaglia. For all eyes to see. And one last one, Hardy Scouser.
All right.
Thank you very much for following us and watching live over on Twitch. They've made available, once we hit our goals, some really fun tools to increase the quality of the show, make some fun little interactive elements, and we can't wait until we get that stuff going. But you can help us get there and help Gons and I support ourselves by heading over to twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio. That's twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio. You'll help us climb the charts and help us hit those viewer goals. Remember, most of our goals are based on live viewers on Twitch during a live broadcast. And, it's also a good idea. There's a couple other reasons. One being YouTube has basically turned their back on both of us, but especially Gons, someone who has been a quality content creator for many years, bringing in millions and millions of views for YouTube. And suddenly they turn around, demonetize, they cut our streams, they delete videos, do all sorts of nasty stuff. So we recommend that everybody, especially if you're watching over on YouTube, if you could find it in your heart to watch live on Twitch, go to twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio. But at the very least, you should follow us on Twitch as a backup, because you never know when you'll just stop getting notifications from YouTube, when the streams will just stop. So keep that in mind. Again, we'll throw the link in the chat for anybody who wants to, give us that warm, fuzzy feeling by following us over on Twitch. And that's about it. What else did I want to do? I wanted to take this time, just so we don't have to do it on the second break of the show, to mention reviews over on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you follow the podcast. Remember, we do we put out a podcast version of this live stream for every episode. The sound quality is significantly better, and we are looking for people to leave ratings and reviews. It helps spread the show, helps us get the show in front of more people. And we are only 3 reviews away from 100 reviews on iTunes, specifically for Canary Cry News Talk. So if you could go out there, search Canary Cry News Talk on Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and a review. Let's get up to 100 reviews. That would be super fun. And if we do it during the show here, let's read out the reviews. We'll give some shout outs if that happens during the show. So,
how many do we have on the Canary Cry Radio stream? I think we have quite a
tons. Yeah, like 800 or something.
Yeah, I'm going to take a quick
but we
look
have
here.
97 reviews on Canary Cry News Talk. Remember, a rating is leaving stars, but a review is words telling us why you like the show or not like the show. But 3 more and we're up to 100. So that's a fun little milestone. Yeah, there we go. All right, Gons, anything else for this break?
I just looked it up here. 873 ratings and reviews for Canary Cry Radio. So that's good. But yeah, News Talk well behind on those numbers.
Well, that is how time works.
Is it really? Based on your day-week confusion, I'm not sure about that.
Gons, time is nothing but a medium in which to travel for me. I don't experience time in the same linear fashion as you do, but that's okay. I won't hold it against you.
Yeah.
All right. You want to talk about Chaz? Let's get back into the show.
Let's do Chaz.
Get in the zone.
Capitol Hill Auto Zone. Chaz stinks.
All right.
Wake up, sleepyhead. Didn't we have the jingle to come out of?
Yes, sorry.
Yes, it's wake up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
Yes, it's wake up time. Okay, let's start out here with the Seattle Times.
I actually have 3 Seattle Times articles. Well, 2. One of them, I have tabs for one that they updated the headline. I'll get into that in a minute here. But
okay, you
this was a couple
the first
days.
One then?
Yeah, so this was from the 24th. So before today, which is not the most compelling thing to say there. But SeattleTimes.com on the 24th, Capitol Hill residents and businesses sue City of Seattle for failing to disband CHOP. Of course, they call it CHOP instead of Chaz there. A group of Capitol Hill residents and businesses filed a class action lawsuit Wednesday against the City of Seattle for the extensive harm they faced as a result of CHOP, or the Capitol Hill Organized Protest. Demonstrators have occupied several blocks around the Seattle Police Department's East Precinct and Cal Anderson Park for about 2 weeks, since the police left the precinct following standoffs and clashes with protesters calling for racial justice and an end to police brutality. Calfo Yates LLP, the law firm representing the group, said in a statement the lawsuit is, quote, not a step their clients have taken lightly, adding that they stand with the Black Lives Matter movement and support demonstrators' rights to free speech and assembly. The plaintiffs include owners of apartment buildings in the area and local businesses such as Cartender, which we reported on. Remember the guy that was... They came after him and knocked down the fence and all that, which was right outside the actual zone, if you remember, Basil. Northwest Liquor and Wine, Sage Physical Therapy, and Tattoos and Fortune. The lawsuit seeks unspecified damages. Quote, this lawsuit does not seek to undermine CHOP participants' message or present a counter-message, the lawsuit says. Rather, this lawsuit is about the constitutional and other legal rights of plaintiffs, which have been overrun by the City of Seattle's unprecedented decision to abandon and close off an entire city neighborhood, leaving it unchecked by the police, unserved by fire and emergency health services, and inaccessible to the public at large. In a statement to the Seattle Times, a spokesperson for the city attorney's office said they haven't received the lawsuit yet, but when they do, they will review it and respond accordingly. The lawsuit blames the city for aiding CHOP occupants by providing them with stronger barriers, public restroom facilities, and medical supplies. It also mentions that residents and business owners now have difficulty accessing their buildings, receiving deliveries, and providing services to customers, with elderly and disabled community members facing magnified obstacles. Quote, the result of the city's action has been lawlessness, the Calfo Yates statement said. There is no public safety presence. Police officers will not enter the area unless it is a life or death situation, and even in those situations, the response is delayed and muted if it comes at all. Residents and business owners feel unsafe in their neighborhood because of the lack of public safety assistance, the lawsuit says, citing police's delayed response times after recent shootings in the area. The complaint also lists individual businesses' stories and gets into some of the stories there, so we don't have to go over all that. But there you go. A couple days ago, Capitol Hill residents and businesses sue the City of Seattle for failing to disband CHOP, and this comes at a time maybe before the damages or the amount of money that they seek increases. It seems like they tried to do something about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Is on the last show we were talking about things starting to look like they were going to break up, maybe the numbers falling, and then some big changes happening. We had Jenny Durkin make the pledge that she was going to disband and take back the area. And then the day after that, the day after the show, some big news happened. So let's go to SeattleTimes.com. This article kind of changed as well, but we'll just go for it. The article is titled Mayor Durkin meets with protesters after city thwarted from removing barricades at CHOP. Protesters appear to have thwarted, at least temporarily, Seattle Department of Transportation's plans to remove concrete barriers that have defined the edges of Capitol Hill organized protest, or CHOP, for several weeks. Okay, so it looks like we've made the full switch over to CHOP from Chaz there.
Well, that plus what I'm not seeing the article you're reading, because the one I had was initially titled City of Seattle appeared ready to remove CHOP barricades, which was then updated later that day, or later today, actually. The headline changed to Seattle began removing new, very difficult to change and update stuff. But anyway.
News on the blockchain. That's right. Yeah, so actually, I don't know what this article says because they changed. Crews arrived early down in the street in front of a piece of equipment. Yes, well, some old school eco
China.
warrior moves there.
Yeah.
You will not steal my concrete barrier. Employees were met with, quote, significant resistance by agitated. A city spokesperson said in an email statement, quote, safety is the city's first priority and planning is ongoing for House Episcopal Church on 14th Avenue. Fire Chief Harold Scoggins and Andre Taylor, an activist against police violence whose brother was killed by Seattle police in 2016, were also in the meeting. Earlier in the afternoon, workers with the city's Parks Department moved through Bobby Morris Playfield and Cal Anderson Park, picking up trash and asking people in tents if they had anything to discard. Within 10 minutes, pickup truck's bed was filled with trash bags. People in the encampment said they were on edge over rumored threats that the city would conduct a owl medicine. Oh my gosh, that caught me by surprise. One resident, a man named Owl Medicine, said he believed the city is keeping people sleep deprived to keep them on edge. Quote, no one knows what's happening, he said. There's no communication to CHOP as a unit. He believes Durkin should give the camp's residents a warning before dismantling it because that's the only way there can be peace and safety. Durkin did give you a warning that she was going to be dismantling it, but okay. Scoggins, the fire chief, walked through the protest zone Friday afternoon and met with demonstrators who questioned him about emergency responses. One man said that one day he was trying to help a woman in the area who was in mental distress, but medics wouldn't come to the location, which was past the zone's perimeter, to help. He asked the fire chief to explain why. I can't explain that, Scoggins said. Wow, just very direct to the point. He's not trying to fluff anybody's button here. He added that Seattle police... Whoa. Sorry, I've completely lost control. He added that Seattle police and not the fire department would have been called to respond to such an emergency. Rick, what is going on?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I hear cats. I hear what's going on over there.
Yes, the cat's going nuts. My VR hand is going nuts. All right. Oh, this cat has come to visit. Yes. Rick Hearns, who has been in the protest zone for days, said that it didn't matter if the barricades were removed. He said he is more concerned about the East Precinct and said that if anyone came to remove that area or take back the precinct, that the protesters planned to link arms without weapons. The mayor's...
Sorry, I'm just trying to
settle down.
I'm trying to
kitty.
tell the cat to go away.
Settle down.
Cat speak.
She needs to take a seat on my lap here. The mayor's office said Seattle Police Department had no plans to return to the East Precinct on Friday. Omari Salisbury, a journalist who has been live streaming from the protests for weeks, said representatives from SDOT and Mayor Jenny Durkin's office were talking with protesters around 6 a.m. About which barriers could be removed, and they said they'd be back in a few hours. As of 10:30 a.m., the equipment had been moved down 12th Avenue away from the CHOP perimeter. Protesters who have been staying in tents in front of the East Precinct were eating breakfast and discussing next steps. Salisbury said the city has been negotiating with protesters over logistics, such as portable toilets and trash pickup. It was nothing new for SDOT to be there talking to the protesters, but it was new to have someone from the mayor's office present, Salisbury said. East Pine Street near 12th Avenue was calm. The hot dog stand was open for business, and a man was selling T-shirts with CHOP on them for $10. That's capitalist. There's no room for capitalism.
Yeah, super
in
capitalist.
CHOP. What the heck? Water faucets within CHOP set up by the Seattle Public Utilities had either been turned off by Friday morning or were not working. Friday is also a deadline for the city to document its plan to address CHOP in response to a class action lawsuit filed this week by a group of Capitol Hill residents and businesses who say they faced extensive harm as a result of the protest. According to the letter from the group, the city has until the end of Friday to respond before the group files for injunctive relief, the letter said. Let's see, one last little thing. The mayor's office said in the email statement that city staff is offering social services and a resource hub to people sleeping in Cal Anderson and encouraging them to leave. and encouraging them to leave.
You can sleep here, but leave.
Please
Bed
leave.
and breakfast.
Please get out of our park. So yeah, we've seen the slow disintegration of CHOP over this week, starting out with Mayor Jenny Durkan saying that they're going to start taking steps to take it back, and beginning to take away the traffic halting barriers that were once surrounding the area. Now, something interesting, Gons, it's really hard to track this when they keep switching out articles and stuff. And another example of this, yesterday, a Twitter account called CHOP Official, SEA for Seattle, put out a tweet, a very interesting tweet, had thousands of responses, and I'm glad I took I have a picture here of a part of the statement. I did not expect what happened next, which was that Twitter handle got suspended, so I can no longer access the tweet in its entirety. But basically, this tweet was CHOP Official, SEA, coming out and saying, okay, we're disbanding. We did a great job. Everybody be proud. The time has come to dismantle CHOP and to move our activism online and keep taking action. This was a victory. We did it, but we're going to stop doing it now. And then it ended with this paragraph that I will read you now. Thank you to everyone for your support over the last 2 weeks, and congratulations on your victories. You should feel proud. Let's not let this momentum die. Please remember to continue supporting the kind of revolutionary change we just created by voting for Joe Biden as president of the United States in November and Jay Inslee as governor of Washington. And despite our occasional differences, we believe Jenny Durkan has stepped up and shown the leadership that will help us heal. We urge you to vote to reelect her in 2021. Wow.
Joe, Jay, and Jenny.
Joe, Jay, and Jenny. We got to vote Joe, Jay, and Jenny back. Remember, this was a protest to police violence. They, at one point, were calling for Jenny Durkan to resign, calling her a terrible mayor, saying she was a traitor, all of these sorts of things. And now suddenly they decide to disband CHOP and completely turn a 180 and call for the re-election of Jenny Durkan. Now, I spent about 25 minutes just scrolling through the Twitter thread of this statement, which was mainly filled with conservatives taking jabs at CHOP, but there was a lot of people claiming that this at CHOP Official SEA was a fake account. I couldn't find anybody saying that the information was false, but a lot of people were just saying, never give up the fight. This is fake. That type of thing.
Right.
Along with some just general support, like, great job, guys. We're so proud of you, mixed in there. Oh, this cat is attacking my microphone. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that the protest that called for the resignation of Jenny Durkan and all sorts of problems they even had problems with Jay Inslee as well, and suddenly the whole thing turns into a campaign platform for Joe, Jay, and Jenny, which I don't think comes as a surprise to anybody, but kind of was a little bit of a shameful 180 as far as calling for the re-election of Jenny Durkan. Now, of course, the suspicion is that maybe Jenny, the mayor, made a deal to
right.
Get peacefully get them out of there without putting anybody in jail, and maybe transferred some money in exchange for getting another election in the bag.
I'm telling you, she, in the middle of the night, she went in riding a horse and met with the protesters.
You
of
and
Chaz
your Jenny
with
on the horse.
with a giant bag of cash on her shoulder. And she said, "Here you go. You just all you gotta do is sing this song on your Twitter account."
Got hairy legs. Got hairy legs.
Yeah, this was very interesting, and especially this is so crazy. First, all those articles are getting replaced during the show, and then I go back today to grab that to open up that tweet for the show today, and the account's suspended. That account is still referenced in a bunch of CNN articles too, so I don't know exactly what's going on, but there you go. I actually, at this point, as has been the issue the whole time with CHOP, I don't know exactly what's happening in there. I can't tell if they're actually going to shut it down or not.
They probably will. At a certain point, I think
that's what I would think. That's what I would think. Yeah. Well, guys, speaking of the beast system.
Speaking of the beast system. Beast system.
Now, the question was asked this week, actually. Why aren't the police using any of those fancy New World Order sonic weapons on protesters? And, well, here you go. This is Salon.com. The article is titled, Police Are Using Sonic Weapons Against Protesters That Can Cause Permanent Hearing Loss. But here's some of the fancy sonic weapons. We've been talking about these weapons in our 9th year of talking about these things. When we started, they were things of conspiracy theories, and yet here we are again, another called it moment.
We talked about we had a whole sound episode where I believe, if I'm not mistaken, maybe somebody in the chat remembers, but
yeah,
I think we did mention
early on in
very
the show.
early. Yeah, and we talked about
Canary
sound
Cry
weapons.
Radio, our other show, for those who don't know.
Right.
Yep. So let me just cruise through this. This is the article reads, if you're planning on attending a protest, it would be wise to bring earplugs. That's because many police departments are using LRADs, or long-range acoustic devices, in order to control crowds. Essentially a loudspeaker that can be repurposed and used by law enforcement as a weapon to permanently damage one's hearing. LRADs can take on many looks, but generally resemble a box amplifier or loudspeaker. Although LRADs can be used to project human voices or recordings across long distances, they are also used to emit a so-called deterrent tone that is capable of resulting in permanent hearing loss or hearing damage. Such hearing damage occurs whenever human ears are exposed to any sound above 85 decibels, though it also depends on length of exposure. Certain LRADs are capable of creating sound nearly twice as loud, up to 160 decibels, which is louder than a jet taking off. That is between 120 and 140. The harm is exacerbated by the fact that, unlike whistles and other sound projection devices that send their waves in all directions, LRADs focus their sound into a cone that extends about 15 degrees in every direction from its axis. The technology company Genesis Inc., which manufactures LRADs, admitted in a statement earlier, notice that little rhetorical device, They admitted in a statement earlier this month that its devices have been used by police departments in Portland, Oregon, San Jose, California, Colorado Springs, Colorado, Phoenix, Arizona, Columbus, Ohio, Charleston, South Carolina, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and other cities. The statement claimed that the devices were used to communicate unlawful assembly and other orders to crowds after recent protests turned violent. Genesis denies that LRADs are weapons, in quotes, though clearly they are being used or misused by police to that end. The devices have been reportedly used on protesters in the United States in the past month. Several days ago, an LRAD was used to disperse protesters in Louisville, Kentucky, after Portland, Oregon. That's weird. They used a weird acronym for Oregon. They put ORE after Portland, Oregon police dispersed protesters with an LRAD on June 5th. Portland's mayor banned the use of them. Okay, much like how Jenny Durkin banned tear gas and then they used it anyways.
Right.
Regardless of how LRADs are designed to be used, they have been used as a form of crowd control and used against other nonviolent protesters, which has occasionally led to litigation. In 2009, protesters at the G20 summit in Pittsburgh were attacked with an LRAD by police. Attacked! Attacked by loud noises.
It's not a weapon.
A local professor suffered permanent hearing damage and won a settlement against the city of Pittsburgh. All right, then they go into a long history of LRADs and stuff like that. But there you go. The LRADs are out, baby. All these techie weapons, they are happening. It's not a secret.
Right. And, I made a point in the last episode about if there is a confrontation with higher military forces with the citizens of CHOP, that they're not going to be able to stand the technology that exists.
Yeah, that's the big problem there. You get an LRAD 160 decibel blast coming at you. It's not a matter of, your will to continue protesting. You physically are going to be disoriented from that.
Yeah. And it's a good way to figure out who their, Marvel X-Men are going to be. The one that stands up and fights the pain and walks at them anyway.
Owl medicine. I am owl medicine, and I shall protect you from the evil LRAD.
What were the three superheroes that we covered from CHOP?
One was just in case, the Red Ranger, and I can't remember the third one. There's a different one.
Something green. Anyway.
Owl medicine.
Owl medicine. Owl medicine took him out.
Yeah.
And I don't know. For some reason, this article reminded me of more South Park episodes. I don't know if that did anything for you, Basil, but
no, but that's okay. I'm glad you're happy.
It just brings me back. There's an old episode where there's. I had to look it up. It's titled The Worldwide Recorder Concert, episode 17, season 3, where they discover the brown noise. And a few million people hit the brown noise with the recorder, and you can guess what happens.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds hilarious.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, maybe that's a better way to get people to stop protesting. Than,
I think that would happen. If you
ears.
had 160 decibels coming right at you, there might be some brown noise involved.
There might be some brown noise, yeah. Okay.
Actually, if you really want to get into the LRAD history, actually, the Nazi scientist Hitler had a sonic weapon that allegedly could cause intestinal damage. So...
And
brown noise
undesired
is real.
Bowel movements.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Could scramble your insides.
Fantastic. I'm also wondering why they didn't use the voice to skull technology. That's another way you could do it.
Maybe that's how Owl Man got his.
You're helping the Orange Man.
You are Owl Medicine.
The Owl Medicine Man.
Heal the people.
Okay.
Oh, it's a new world order. It's
here. This is the J-Post, the JerusalemPost.com. And it's an opinion piece, but I found it interesting. This kind of awareness of things from the one side of the aisle, the opposite side of the aisle, is very fascinating. The headline here is "The Link Between George Orwell, George Floyd, and the Jews."
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and it kind of summarizes a lot of the sentiments that I've seen in the social medias from the pro-woke side. It says here, George Orwell's iconic book 1984 depicts a dystopian post-revolutionary world in which an all-powerful party rules a totalitarian universe through the use of...
Did you mention this was from J-Post?
Yes, I did.
A Jewish outlet? Okay.
Yes, I did. Were you not listening? It was like 30 seconds ago.
I wasn't.
I appreciate that. Okay, let me start over. George Orwell's iconic book, 1984, depicts a dystopian post-revolutionary world in which an all-powerful party rules a totalitarian universe through the use of thought police. In part 2 of the prophetic novel, the protagonist of the story, Winston Smith, tries to impress upon Julia, the woman whom he is having a dangerous and forbidden love affair, why it is so important to rebel against mind control.
Impossible.
Quote, Do you realize that the past, starting from yesterday, has been actually abolished? He asks rhetorically during one of their trysts while recounting tales of his time as a forger of records. Quote, if it survives anywhere, it's in a few solid objects with no words attached to them, like that lump of glass there. He goes on, already we know almost literally nothing about the revolution and the years before the revolution. Every record has been destroyed or falsified. Every book has been rewritten. Every picture has been repainted. Every statue and street and building has been renamed. Every date has been altered. And that process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right. These words, published in Britain in 1949, 4 years after the end of World War II, are particularly chilling today in light of the current upheaval in the U.S. The ostensible catalyst for the explosion of what could be called the cancel culture revolution was the May 25th killing of African-American George Floyd by a sadistic Minneapolis police officer. The ground was already fertile for the mayhem that ensued, however. Indeed, anybody who believes that the goal of the protesters, certainly those rioting and looting, but even the ones marching and chanting peacefully, has been to raise consciousness about the unfair treatment of blacks is missing the point and the bigger picture. What has become clear during the past few weeks is that the motive of the radicals leading the campaign is not to improve America by eradicating its social flaws. It is, rather, to demonize the country's birth as a nation and delegitimize its entire existence, just like its enemies abroad, such as Iran, but from within. The Black Lives Matter and Antifa thugs barely disguise this aim. They don't need to do so, nor are they embarrassed by their often inherently contradictory positions. They call the shots, after all, and are never called to task for their actions. Meanwhile, their numerous clueless fellow travelers in the media, academia, Hollywood, Silicon Valley, and even Wall Street are too busy apologizing for being privileged to engage in any serious examination or debate. Yes, even seemingly intelligent and educated people are more preoccupied these days with firing employees who might harbor impure thoughts, banning books, and changing the brand names of syrup and cereal to question the dubious practices of the activists to whom they are kowtowing. Yes, as professors and newspaper editors lost their livelihoods for defending free speech, their peers were penning letters of mea culpa for crimes against blacks that they have not committed. As Democratic members of the U.S. Congress kneeled subserviently to the mobs defaming and attacking law enforcers, their party's state senators, governors, and mayors were being pressured by radical constituents into defunding police departments that not only employ blacks, but die in the service of protecting them. And as these Democrats cloaked themselves in African Kente clothes, not one of them even mentioned that thousands of Nigerian Christians are being slaughtered by Boko Haram jihadists who also happen to be black. But then not a peep has been uttered by Black Lives Matter about the plight of their fellow Africans. You know, the ones who actually live in Africa, where racism is rampant and slavery still thrives. Nor do the people begging for acceptance and forgiveness from the Black Lives Matter radicals appear to notice, for instance, that among the symbols of American heritage and history being trashed by their supporters are those honoring famed abolitionists, such as Wisconsin's Colonel Hans Christian Heg, as well as monuments that pay tribute to blacks themselves. Take the Clayton Jackson McGee Memorial in Duluth, Minnesota, for example, which was defaced in the immediate aftermath of Floyd's murder. The monument consists of the statues of Elias Clayton, Elmer Jackson, and Isaac McGee, 3 black men lynched by an angry mob in 1920 and hanged from a lamppost after being accused falsely of raping a white woman. Then there's Robert Gould Shaw in Massachusetts 54th Regiment Memorial in Boston. The bas-relief sculpture was created at the end of the 19th century to highlight the evil of racial bigotry and pay homage to the black heroes who fought and died in the Civil War. The desecration of the above monuments can be explained in one of two ways. Either the fact that they were erected by Americans and Americans was wait, hold on. Either the fact that they were erected by Americans for Americans was sufficient to render them evil, or the perpetrators who vandalized them were too ignorant of their own history to be familiar with the figures in stone and bronze. Orwell explains this phenomenon from the grave. Quote, in a way, the worldview of the party imposed itself most successfully on people incapable of understanding it, his protagonist muses. Quote, they could be made to accept the most flagrant violations of reality because they never fully grasped the enormity of what was demanded of them and were not sufficiently interested in public events to notice what was happening. By lack of understanding, they remained sane. They simply swallowed everything, and what they swallowed did them no harm because it left no residue behind, just as a grain of corn will pass undigested through the body of a bird. However, quote, flagrant violations of reality became the norm. The Jews have to worry. Whenever flagrant violations of reality become the norm, the Jews have to worry. Of course, like African Americans, Jews are not a homogeneous bunch. Just as many blacks are horrified and disgusted by the burning of the American flag and the denial of American exceptionalism, plenty of Jews are siding with Black Lives Matter in the effort to destroy the land. Oh my gosh, something happened. Oh, there it goes. It's back.
Whoa, it reloaded on my side too. They must have changed something.
Interesting.
History being rewritten.
As we read it. And the denial of American... hold on, let me start that sentence again. Just as many blacks are horrified and disgusted by the burning of the American flag and the denial of American exceptionalism, plenty of Jews are siding with Black Lives Matter in an effort to destroy the, quote, land of the free and home of the brave. Oh, and to take down Israel while they're at it. Some of these are ideologues with an agenda. Others are not sufficiently interested in public events to notice what is happening. Yet, all are potential prey for the George Floyd fan club, whose targets for hatred and blame at the moment are the police, the president, and anyone who dares to suggest that all lives matter. When enthusiasm for those common enemies start to lose steam, the Jews will become an open scapegoat, as they always do when a society is in peril or decline. This helps shed light on the sudden surge in the interest in American Jews to immigrate to Israel. Have you heard about this, Basil? This surge of American Jews wanting to immigrate to Israel?
I guess not. Not really. No.
I've been seeing smatterings of it, so I thought it was interesting that this article brings that to light here. But I'll continue on here. Between the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequent anti-white demonstrations across the country, both of which were accompanied by anti-Semitic undertones, Jews who had spent years, if not decades, toying with the idea of relocating to the Holy Land began to take concrete steps in that direction. According to the Aliyah facilitating organization Nefesh B'Nefesh, this May saw a record number of applications from North America, the highest in a single month since its founding 18 years ago. In anticipation, the Jewish agency told the Knesset to prepare for the wave of new immigrants. The good news for Israel is, Though good news for Israel, it is a bad sign of the times. Jews never before have felt the need to flee the U.S. If they made Aliyah, it was by choice. That so many even are considering such a move during the global economic crisis caused by coronavirus lockdowns indicates uncharacteristic desperation. Their malaise is undeniable, or understandable. Their malaise is understandable. So is their hope that Israel will provide a safe haven from progressive totalitarianism. The problem is that Israelis mimic Americans, which is why a vigil for Floyd, replete with Black Lives Matter signs and slogans, was held in Tel Aviv. It is also the reason that Israeli pundits who appear regularly on one or another of Israel's main TV channels assert with idiocy disguised as authority that America suffers from systemic racism, which everyone knows is the fault of U.S. President Donald Trump. Alas, if Israel were surrounded by Iranian proxies and other external enemies armed to the teeth, it easily could end up bathing in, not just drinking, the cancel culture Kool-Aid. Israel, like the rest of the West, needs a strong and healthy America, not one forced into submission by fanatics bent on altering its nature and fundamental principles. Black Lives Matter, it's sycophants, must not be mistaken for people who care about the likes of George Floyd. They should be seen and understood in the context of George Orwell.
Whoa.
So I thought this was very well done, coming from someone that's Jewish, I think, Ruthie Blum. And I gave her a shout out on Twitter that I was going to share this article on today's episode here. Because not only does it bring to light the George Orwell concept and the, make 1984 fiction again concept, but the connection with Israel especially, I think, is interesting because, there's a lot of people that talk about the Zionist movement and how the Zionist movement is involved in a lot of this civil unrest in the United States. And it could be, I'm just, this is just theorizing on my part here. But it could be that they want all the Jews to come back to Israel or go back to their homeland as a way to sort of create more of that tension and have a sort of unified Israel based on sort of racial lines and ethnic lines and things like that. And especially since Trump has been very divisive, I think, for the Jewish community. Some people love him. Some people despise him. It's very interesting to watch the whole concept because the Jews obviously have been part of this undercurrent of the whole thing here with either being, calling out, hey, we're being anti-Semitism is on the rise again. We're being persecuted again in America, to the opposite end of, hey, call out the Zionists. They're trying to do some things here that are not cool. And a lot of, I've seen, a good handful of Jewish people say like, hey, we're not for this Zionist political movement trying to take over everything, and calling out some
moderate secular Jews.
Yeah. And calling out what they're doing and trying to, expand their region and things like that. So I just thought it was very fascinating. And I thought it was a very well put together article that summarizes a lot of what was going on in the context of 1984, but also throwing in that Jewish perspective. Seemed pretty grounded in my estimation. But what did you think, Basil?
Yeah, I'd say for the most part, I think it was a good summation of the George Orwell conversation going on. I mean, obviously, we've mentioned it throughout, the past couple months, and there is definitely a connection there to be made. I'd take umbrage with a couple things that were mentioned. I mean, obviously, politically, the author of this article, swings to the right quite far.
Yeah,
I think statements like the last sentence where it reads, Black Lives Matter and its sycophants must not be mistaken for people who care about the likes of George Floyd. They should be seen and understood in the context of George Orwell. I think that's a little bit of an extreme extrapolation to say in a general way. Because, of course, I think that a huge portion of the people, if not the by their own admission, the trained Marxists who are leading the revolution.
Yeah.
Maybe we should play that clip one of these days. But yeah, the admittedly trained Marxists who are leading the charge on a lot of the Black Lives Matter movement. That's one thing, but it is a different thing for people who are sort of organically recruited to the ideology, who I think do care about George Floyd and, at least the data and the
well, just the idea of a human being losing their life. I know some people believe that,
and even if it is specifically George Floyd and specifically Black Lives Matter, I know for a fact that there are those who just jump on and do their part because of a very real issue that they want to participate in. But when it comes to things like erasing the movie that gave the first Black
Award.
American woman her Oscar, or erasing the logo of one of the first black female millionaires, or erasing the, erasing certain, the statues are a conversation we've already had. There certainly is an aspect of the George Orwell warning, which I think, should be, like I said, history is a pendulum, and so is ideology. You have the ideology of equality and fair treatment by police, which is very important. I think we all agree that should be the case. But then there's the ideology of erasing a past, and that's kind of the deal that we're working with now, which, to be fair, historically, has been perpetrated by white people in the past as well.
Right.
The United Daughters of the Confederacy, a female Confederacy group that got together after the Civil War. They did a lot of work to change the history books on exactly what was happening and the history of the Confederate States. So, this changing of history happens all the time. And, it should be fought at every instance. But yeah, anyways, I forgot where I was going with this. I think the general statement, the blanket statement of the last two sentences of this, I think, are a good example of, this person is taking a stand, a very strong stand, which a lot of people are doing today. And whenever you take a very strong stand, you're going to bump up against subtleties and complexities that people can start kind of poking holes in.
Well, I think that the reason why she used the word sycophants was to distinguish those who are taking advantage of the whole Black Lives Matter thing to push an agenda, and separating those people from the people who actually care for the human being that died. So I think that's why she used that.
I think that would be more effective if more people knew what sycophants were.
Okay, all right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah,
it's kind of one of those words that you'll just read and keep going and not really think about what it actually means.
Right.
So maybe we should just read the definition on air for all of our people here.
I'll try to pull it up here. I think it's got something to do with who's faster.
I could try to explain it, but it would be better just to read the definition. A person who attempts to gain advantage by flattering influential people or behaving in a servile manner to give information about or to tell tales of tell tales of in order to gain favor. To place, so it's people. It's virtue signaling.
Virtue
is
signaling,
what it is.
Yeah.
So So the word sycophants in this context, being Black Lives Matter, and its virtue signaling, bandwagon jumper honors,
right,
must not be mistaken for people who care about George Floyd. But more in the context of George Orwell. Okay, well, that changes it a little bit.
Right. So that's what I was saying is that I understood where you're coming from, but then I read it kind of, had to read it a couple times, but then I think she's trying to separate the people who really care about a human being, a life of a human being, as opposed to this other agenda. And those people that are pushing that other agenda, they should be filtered not through the George Floyd, perspective of a human being dying, but rather the George Orwell context of, hey, we're trying to control you and erase history and that sort of thing. So,
no, I think that's good. I think that's, that's a very, very important distinction to make. And it's a distinction that we've been making since the beginning.
It is.
And now we have a long, big, confusing word to describe it. So good.
Hey, at least people learn. It's pronounced sycophants.
Right.
I've read that word so
education.
many times, and I've heard people mention it a few times, but when you're reading an article, sometimes it just came out sycophants just because it does sound like that. And I mean, maybe it does make sense in a weird way, but you know what? We let's see. We have one more thing here before the break where we have a knighting, and that is concerning what is it? What is it concerning?
4 horsemen of the Technocalypse.
Oh, that's right. Oh, here we go.
The 4 horsemen of the Technocalypse. Anytime you see the 4 horsemen, it's something special.
I love this.
Loud.
This was a tweet from Elon Musk. Just says, "Who controls the memes? Controls the universe." A truer truth has never been spoken.
I think we should put that on a T-shirt with a meme that is, a Canary Cry community meme, the best one.
Yeah,
we can vote
I
for
think
it.
so.
And we can even quote Elon Musk. We can say,
yeah, we got to at him.
Yeah, we'll at him on the shirt, and we'll make it a thing. But yeah, I thought this was it was fun because there's some truth to it. But break it down for us, Basil. Who controls the memes? Controls the universe.
Yes, well, there's a couple things you need to keep in mind when looking at this. Meme, of course, on its face in current internet vernacular represents, usually an image with some text. Take one step back from that. A meme in the psychological, the sort of clinical sense is an idea that is replicated across populations. So you can think of a meme and compare it to a gene. So you think of a gene like some DNA replicates itself and spreads itself throughout a population. A meme is very similar. A meme is not a meme unless, a bunch of people can relate to it. It's a very relatable idea. Right. So when Elon Musk is, of course, in the internet vernacular, who controls the memes controls the universe is kind of a fun recognition that memes are pretty much all the internet's good for nowadays. Is even including disseminating information. But if you take the clinical term meme, who controls the memes controls the universe. It's actually kind of a mind control social engineering statement that he's making here.
Right.
So he who controls the replicating ideas through a population controls the universe. And that is I think that's pretty spot on.
It's interesting in the context of the gospel, how that, if you think about, if you're talking about an idea that spreads, it's really interesting. When you start thinking about the whole messaging of a man who claimed to be God, who resurrected, and just through that belief, you have a salvation of your soul. It's a very simple idea that has been manipulated and changed, or the controllers and authorities and stuff have abused religion in general. But it's just a fascinating thing how it's kept so simple, As far as I understand the gospel, it's fairly simple. And it's antithetical to all other religious worldviews, and it cuts through everything, all the human authorities that try to establish themselves as some kind of intermediary. So I don't know, I just thought it was interesting that he would say that. Probably didn't mean it that way at all, but just my little spin on the whole, the whole tweet there.
Yeah, well, and as far as the gospel as a meme, very interestingly, is because, when the simple details and the calling of the gospel, it's a very relatable calling. Throughout humanity, which is one of the reasons why the meme of Christ has been so successful over thousands of years.
Right.
So there you go.
Amen. And
boom, shakalaka.
Yeah, and Elon also had this other tweet which I thought was pretty funny, and we've been tracking some of the interwar between the four horsemen of the technocalypse. And this is one of those instances, and of course, Elon Musk, the genius that he is, will do it in just a handful of words and a cat emoji. But Elon Musk tweeted, "At Jeff Bezos is a copycat, haha." And what is he talking about? He linked to an article by the Financial Times titled, "Amazon acquires self-driving startup Zoox for over $1.2 billion. And so, Amazon getting into the self-driving car business. Elon Musk, trying to call him out, saying he's just a copycat. Right. They're fighting. The
cat fight.
Two horsemen are fighting. Yes, and one more update from another horseman. This came in at the very last minute before we went live here, but I thought I'd throw it in here because it was interesting. Zuckerberg, this is dailymail.co.uk. Zuckerberg caves and says Facebook will ban hate speech in its ads and put warning labels on harmful posts by public figures after nearly 100 advertisers boycotted the tech giant. And I'll read through some of the bullet points here. Mark Zuckerberg announced new policies on harmful and hateful content. Facebook will label harmful posts from politicians if they are newsworthy. Company will also ban ads and ban ads that blame certain groups or social problems. Comes after massive pressure from ad boycott campaign against Facebook. Honda is the latest company to pull ads from Facebook in America. Unilever said Friday it would halt ads on Facebook and Twitter for the rest of the year. Company owns popular brands such as Dove Soap, Lipton Tea, and Klondike bars. No more Klondike bars on Facebook. Unilever subsidiary Ben & Jerry's announced its own Facebook boycott this week. Unilever has an announcement advertising budget of almost $8 billion. Jeez.
Wow.
Shares
crazy.
in Facebook fell about 7% Friday amid the uproar. And it goes to show that a lot of... hey, there's a creepy video of Zuckerberg that popped up. Oh, man, I don't need this. It just goes to show how a company like Facebook, apart from all of the data mining they do, their main business is still like they made billions not from just selling your data, which they did, but it wasn't just that. It was having that complicit, advertising, marketing connection, and all the big companies using their platform where they made a lot of their money, the ad money, that came in. And so once that starts leaving, 180 from Zuckerberg.
It's all about the money, baby.
All about the money.
All about the money.
We got more money stories coming up later, too. But that is it for now.
Okay.
We have
Let's
a little
take
break.
a quick little break.
It's break time. Come on, take a break.
Okay, everybody, we are going to be thanking some producers as well as introducing a new night of the Canary Cry Roundtable of Knights and Dames. But don't go anywhere, because after the break, we're going to be talking some CRISPR, some more stimulus money. You gotta get the news on the stimulus money, some blockchain, and a very interesting 33 alert that we'll need to talk about as well. But first, Gons, let's thank some producers. What do you say?
That sounds good to me. Let's do it.
Okay, now, if some of you are wondering, what am I talking about? Talking about producers and such. I thought we were just a couple of knuckleheads putting out a show. No, here's the thing. We run on the value for value model, which is we put out the show, and you, as individuals, human beings who listen to the show, if you get value out of what we do 3 times a week, you then have the opportunity to put some value back in. And just like the real world, we're not LARPing around here. This isn't a game. If you put, we used to ask for donations. Lots of other shows ask for donations, but we're not a charity. And just like the real world, those who pay the bill to get a piece of media made, they're not just donors or listeners, they are producers. So if you support the show financially or in a couple other ways, you are a producer of the show. And this is not a joke. This is not a little, a fun little quip or anything. That's just how the real world works, folks. Grow up. So if you want to, so we want to take a second and thank some of our new producers for this week. Gons, let me just double check just in case somebody came in during the show.
I actually did on both the patreon.com/CCNT and patreon.com/Canary Cry Radio. And we only have one.
Only one. Okay. Only one new producer since the last show. That's okay. We're very grateful to that producer coming in over at patreon.com/Canary Cry Radio. Remember, for this show, if you want to support this show, put some value back in, you can go to patreon.com/CCNT for Canary Cry News Talk. But we had our one producer come in, and their name is Sambakuf. Sambakuf. Thank you very much, Sambakuf. And anybody come in on PayPal or anything?
I'm doing a double check just to make sure nobody since the show started has provided a little producership support. And
Sure.
I am not seeing
anything. Okay, so there you go. I appreciate that, Sambuca. Thank you for coming in and supporting the show. You are our producer for this episode. And you people out there, if you want to become a producer, you'll get a shout out on the show. It's called Credits, people. Look it up. And you'll also help this show keep going. If you get any value out of us doing this show 3 times a week, please consider becoming a producer of the show. It's the only way we can keep going. We've actually been propositioned by many advertisers over the years, and we turn them all away because we don't believe in gaining your trust and gaining your attention and turning around and selling it for our own personal gain. Occasionally, we'll get listeners out there say, I'd rather you advertise. I'd rather you advertise than talk about donations and producers and all this nonsense. And it really makes me sad because that's actually part of the brainwashing going on, Guns.
Totally.
People would rather that their trust and attention be sold to a corporation than to actually actively support something they love. And that, I don't know. I've talked about it a lot, but that's exactly what's wrong with the world. It's submitting yourself to the system of this world. You are willingly turning yourself over as a mind slave. Advertisement is brainwashing, and so it really makes me sad when I see people say they would rather we advertise than ask for people to support the show. It's dejecting.
And plus, it causes the content creators to have to change their messaging if they want to keep the money coming in too.
That's exactly right.
That's the other
Can
part
you
of it.
imagine the types of things that would get our advertising pulled? We couldn't do the show. The show wouldn't be
every show
there.
every time we'd say something,
First of all, even just talking about the gospel, that's that would be considered hate speech. We'd lose advertisers there, as well as all the other crazy stuff. And so there you go. I mean, if you want advertising on this show, it won't be this show. So we rely on our producers to support the show, and that's why we're so thankful to Sambuca. And that, Gons, is why we are so happy to introduce a new night to the Canary Cry Roundtable of Knights and Dames. If you don't know, the Canary Cry Roundtable of Knights and Dames is a collection of very special producers. We've been doing podcasts. We are in our 9th year. And so, a lot of people have been supporting us over those 9 years. And when a producer has contributed in the amount of $1,000 or more, they are now introduced to the Canary Cry Radio Roundtable of Knights and Dames. They get a place of honor and are considered, some very generous producers of the show. And we have one today.
Yes, we do. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready. Here, hold on. Let me get this. Got to get my sword out here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I was doing a little sharpening earlier today of my Japanese katana. Oh, that's right. Okie dokie, here we go. Well, we want to call up Sir Edward. It is our honor. Please step forward to the Canary Cry Roundtable of Knights and Dames, where we have a seat for you. Thanks to your generous support in the amount of $1,000 or more, we are proud to announce you a knight of the Canary Cry Roundtable. You shall now be known as Sir Edward, Knight of the Truth and Marshal for Jesus Christ, at the Canary Cry Roundtable, where we have the belt of truthful truthiness, the breastplate of righteous righteousness, custom-fit Birkenstocks to carry forth the gospel of peace, the shield of ferocious faith, the helmet substantiating salvation, the supernatural sword of the Spirit, and of course, adorable samurai babies, infinitely cute kittens for cuddling. And if you're hungry, we have fancy feast, sweat food, and of course, fried wormicorns. Welcome to the Canary Cry Knights and Dames Roundtable, Sir Edward, Knight of the Truth, and Marshal for Jesus Christ. Thank you very much, Sir Edward. And there you go. Big round of applause. Everybody out there needs to, say thank you to our very generous new producer, Sir Edward. You are the man. And any notes, any jingles, anything come for Sir Edward?
We got a little note from him, and he said, "My work continues here in Texas." So he's out there in the big state of Texas.
Producer. Love
And
it.
my purpose in life now has been for many years since I've been saved. Hold on. I must have copied and pasted this wrong here. My work continues here in Texas, and my purpose in life now has been for many years since I've been saved is to spread the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ, just as both of you do. I don't have a jingle request. I don't have anyone or anything or anyone to call out except for the lies of all of our current situations.
Call them out.
Which y'all do a great job on your reporting and on all the articles you report on. So, just in the mighty name of Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, I'm honored and privileged to help you and many other ministries to help and expose the lies of this world and bring forth the truth. Thank you, Basil and Gons, and the entire audience for everyone's support, as we all have an important role to play in bringing forth the way, the truth, and the life. Thank you. And in his note, he included a picture of himself and some people he met. A worship leader in an orphanage in Africa, in Uganda. And it was amazing. He said it was amazing to meet them. And it was a girl with no legs and one arm.
Wow.
And he said she's one of many inspirations I've seen in my mission work. So thank you guys. So
wow.
There you go. Yeah. Doing some good work there.
That's some hardcore missionary work there, buddy. Thank you so much. It's really an honor and a privilege to get supported by the great people who support the show, and including you, Sir Edward. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. You want to, I don't know, should we just make up some jingle requests just to play something for them? Or
hallelujah.
There we go.
We can always play the Apocalypse update jingle again. I mean, that's an option.
I don't know. 2 in a row. That might be a lot. But there you go. Now, that's right. So thank you very much, Sir Edward. And thank you to all our producers. And if you are out there and you want to help produce the show, you can head to patreon.com/CCNT for Canary Cry News Talk. Or you can head over to patreon.com/Canary Cry Radio. And we have another option. If you don't like Patreon, which we totally get. In fact, Gons, Patreon's going to start charging sales tax for certain things.
I know. I
don't
saw that.
think our accounts are going to have to do that. I'll have to double check, but
yeah, people overseas, especially people in other countries, are going to get hit with that.
So if you don't want to get mixed up in the Patreon mess, well, we have good news for you. You can head over to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right. If you go to canarycryradio.com/support, we've got PayPal options, monthly subscriptions, one-time donations, as well as cryptocurrency. So if you want to support the show there, we would be eternally grateful. And we can only keep doing the show if people keep helping produce the show. So please consider helping us out for next show by supporting us in one of those many ways. And there's links in the show notes and things like that you can be led to go there. So thank you very much. Gons, anything else left on the list for this break?
There is Mr. Magoo sent us another jingle here.
Okay.
The Robot Mob. That's another way you can contribute to the show anytime you think of something. Maybe the owl. What was it? The
owl medicine.
If you have some artwork.
Yeah, I have a feeling owl medicine might pop up on one of the Canary Cry Saga comic book covers.
I think that's almost a given. I mean, how can you not? You know, he's standing in front of Bohemian Grove, but also the Seattle Tower. He's in two places at once.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and he's part owl, part medicine. He's got vaccine needles sticking out of him. Watch out, folks.
Okay. But yeah, Mr. Magoo sent us a robot mob jingle, which I spiced up. And here
spice it up.
Is.
Yeah, see? Yeah. There's a new boss in town. See? Yeah. Yeah.
So anytime the robot mob is mentioned, we have something to go to.
You mentioned that I said something about a robot mob, and I don't know what it is. I do not remember mentioning the robot mob, but I believe you that I said something about it.
You did.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Who sent that? Mr. Magoo sent that.
Yes.
There's lots of ways to help support the show, produce the show. One of them is by creating jingles like Mr. Magoo did. If you know your way around some recording software or something like that, or just know how to edit some sound effects, you can send us a jingle for a topic that we cover on the show, or just a fun jingle about Gons or myself or whatever. And if you produce that, send it to canarycryradio@gmail.com. Most likely we'll play it on the show. And another great way to help produce the show is creating art. I don't think we have any art for this show, do we, Guns?
I didn't see anything. I think we just got something come in, but not before the show. So I don't know that we're going to have anything.
Yeah.
specific.
So if you would like to support the show that way, if you're a creative person, a graphic designer, or an artist of some kind, you can make some show-themed art, send it in. We'll show it on the live stream, put it on the Facebook page, put it in a newsletter, all sorts of cool stuff.
I'll mention. Oh, sorry. You're going to finish up? I was
just going to say we'll give you a shout-out on the show for it.
Yes, and speaking of a shout-out, Rich Nelson did send us the Alex Jones clips, if you want to hear those real quick.
Yeah.
Here's the first one.
I'm sick of being social engineered. It's not funny.
It's pretty funny. And then
It's
the
a little
frogs.
funny.
Yeah, it is kind of funny when Alex Jones says it. And the frogs gay clip here.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the frogs gay.
That's a classic.
Classic
That's a
clip.
classic AJ clip.
Yeah. I don't know how much we can use some of that. I mean, it's already
I'm
been
glad to have them on hand. You never
overplayed,
know
but
when
yeah,
you
you're
need
right.
them.
Yeah, you never know. So thank
Rather
you.
have it and not need it than need it and not have it, Gons.
That's very true. That's a good point. So thank you, Rich Nelson, for sending us those
That's right.
clips.
Okay. What do you say we get back into the show?
Let's do it.
CRISPR. Cas9.
This is nature.com. We've had a couple different stories. Someone, of Air and Sea over on DLive has a Alex Jones GIF that is just hilarious. It's scrolling up through the chat if you're in the
pounding his chest, as only Alex Jones can do.
Yes. We had a couple CRISPR stories in the last episode. One about the sickle cell anemia and how it's working on people that suffer from that, and also the light CRISPR, the light beam method, I guess, the newer, more advanced method. Yeah. And those are positive type of stories, and positive in the air quotes because, again, we've always been approaching this topic with caution here. But this one's a little bit more on the negative side, if you will. Nature.com, CRISPR gene editing in human embryos wreaks chromosomal mayhem.
Yep.
Yeah.
We
suite of experiments.
This a while back. I'm glad you brought it, though.
Yeah. When is the article published? Just to double check here. June 25th. Okay, so it's yesterday. A suite of experiments that use the gene editing tool CRISPR-Cas9 to modify human embryos have revealed how the process can make large, unwanted changes to the genome at or near the target site. The studies were published this month on the preprint server BioRxiv, and have not yet been peer-reviewed. What's up with these non-peer-reviewed papers getting a lot of attention these days?
That's been the problem, too, with a lot of COVID stuff. I mean,
know.
there was the Lancet studies got retracted for that exact reason.
Yeah. But taken together, they give scientists a good look at what some say is an underappreciated risk of CRISPR-Cas9 editing. Previous experiments have revealed that the tool can make off-target gene mutations far from the target site, but the nearby changes identified in the latest studies can be missed by standard assessment methods. Quote, the on-target effects are more important and would be much more difficult to eliminate, says Gretan Bergio, a geneticist at the Australian National University of Canberra. These safety concerns are likely to inform the ongoing debate over whether scientists should edit human embryos to prevent genetic diseases, a process that is controversial because it creates a permanent change to the genome that can be passed down for generations. Quote, if human embryo editing for reproductive purposes or germline editing were spaceflight, the new data are the equivalent of having the rocket explode at the launch pad before takeoff, says Fyodor Urnov, who studies genome editing at the University of California, Berkeley, but was not involved in any of the latest research. Unwanted effects. Researchers conducted the first experiments using CRISPR to edit human embryos in 2015. Since then, a handful of teams around the world have begun to explore the process, which aims to make precise edits to genes. But such studies are still rare and are generally strictly regulated. The latest research underscores how little is known about how human embryos repair DNA cut by the genome editing tools, a key step in CRISPR-Cas9 editing, says reproductive biologist Mary Herbert at Newcastle University, UK. Quote, we need a basic roadmap of what's going on in there before we start hitting it with DNA-cutting enzymes, she says. I guess the light beams haven't reached the labs yet. But we continue on here. The first preprint was posted online on 5th June by developmental biologist Kathy Neacon of the Francis Crick Institute in London and her colleagues. In the study, the researchers used CRISPR-Cas9 to create mutations in the POU5F1 gene, which is important for embryonic development. Of 18 genome-edited embryos, about 22% contain unwanted changes affecting large swaths of the DNA surrounding POU5F1. They included DNA rearrangements and large deletions of several thousand DNA letters, much greater than typically intended by researchers using this approach. Yikes. Another group, led by stem cell biologist Dieter Egli of Columbia University in New York City, studied embryos created with sperm carrying a blindness-causing mutation in a gene called EYS squared. The team used CRISPR-Cas9 to try to correct that mutation, but about half of the embryos tested lost large segments of the chromosome, and sometimes the entire chromosome on which EYS is situated. And a third group, led by reproductive biologist Shokrat Mitalipov of Oregon Health and Science University in Portland, studied embryos made using sperm with a mutation that caused a heart condition. This team also found signs that editing affected large regions of the chromosome containing the mutated gene. In all the studies, researchers used the embryos for scientific purposes only and not to generate pregnancies. The lead authors of the 3 preprints declined to discuss the details of their work with Nature's News team until the articles are published in peer-reviewed journals. Good job there, scientists. Unpredictable repair. The changes are the result of DNA repair processes harnessed by genomic editing tools. CRISPR-Cas9 uses a small strand of RNA to direct the Cas9 enzyme to a site in the genome with a smaller sequence. The enzyme then cuts both strands of DNA at that site, and the cell's repair systems heal the gap. The edits occur until that repair. Most often, the cell seals up the cut using an error-prone mechanism that can insert or delete a small number of DNA letters. If researchers provide a DNA template, the cell might sometimes use that sequence to mend the cut, resulting in a true rewrite. But broken DNA can also cause shuffling or loss of a large region of the chromosome. Previous work using CRISPR in mouse embryos and other kinds of human cell had already demonstrated that editing chromosomes can cause large unwanted effects, but it was important to demonstrate to the work in human embryos as well, says Yurnoff, because different cell types might respond to genome editing differently. Such rearrangements could be missed in many experiments, which typically look for other unwanted edits, such as single-letter DNA changes or small insertions or deletions of only a few letters. The latest studies, however, looked specifically for large deletions and chromosomal rearrangements near the target site. Quote, this is something that all of us in the scientific community will starting immediately, take more seriously than we already have, says Yurnoff. This is not a one-time fluke. Goes on here. Oh, it's only 3 more paragraphs. I'll wrap it up here. Genetic changes. The 3 studies offered different explanations for how the DNA changes arose. Egley and Niakan's teams attributed the bulk of the changes observed in their embryos to large deletions and rearrangements. Mitalipov's group instead said that up to 40% of the changes it found were caused by a phenomenon called gene conversion, in which DNA repair processes copy a sequence from one chromosome in a pair to heal another. Mitalipov and his colleagues reported similar findings in 2017, but some researchers were skeptical that frequent gene conversions could occur in embryos. They noted that the maternal and paternal chromosomes are not next to each other at the time the gene conversion is postulated to occur, and that the assays the team used to identify gene conversion could have been picking up other chromosomal changes, including deletions. Egley and his colleagues directly tested for gene conversions in their latest preprint and failed to find them. And Bergio points out that the assays used in the Mitalipov preprint are similar to those the team used in 2017. One possibility is that DNA breaks are healed differently at various positions along the chromosome, said Jin-Soo Kim, a geneticist at Seoul National University and a co-author of the Mitalipov preprint. So there you go. A little more evidence, not confirmed by peer-reviewed journals, but 3 separate studies suggesting that DNA deletion and reshuffling is a problem with CRISPR-Cas9 technology.
Yeah, can't say I'm too surprised,
No.
and can't say that we're the first to say it, that tampering with the DNA of human beings would cause a cascading effect of doom. But it's nice to have science on your side for once.
Because science is truth. I was gonna ISO that Fauci. Science is truth, but I totally forgot to do it today. But we'll have it before the next show, maybe.
Yeah. So there's not much to really analyze or break apart with this.
No.
But maybe it's because I take for granted. Now, if there's listeners who are coming on for the first time, just to kind of give you a little bit of a background about why we follow CRISPR, gene editing and tampering with the original, the image of God that, we are. Since creation, tampering with that seems to have a lot of bad consequences, as well as we see that mixed in with a lot of prophetic sort of Bible themes and theories regarding what might be the downfall of the human race, as well as, of course, the technocracy looking for ways to increase the glory of human beings, and trying to be in our fallen state, and be as gods ourselves. So that's why we keep track of this type of thing. CRISPR obviously being one of the biggest not improvements, but the biggest technological. I don't know. What's the word I'm looking for here?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. Whatever.
Like a prototype.
One of the biggest things that happened recently in genetic research. And of course, no surprise, with a history of genetic tampering like we see with Dr. He in China, who actually brought some genetically modified embryos to term. Right. There are technically 2 CRISPR-edited babies somewhere in China.
I thought they passed away or something. They weren't healthy or something.
They went into hiding last time I remember.
Oh, okay.
The Chinese government was hiding them as they sent He to jail. So anyways, that's
as they mutated into Nephilim giants.
Yeah.
And the CCP said, we can use them now in our army.
That's right. They've now been cloned for the Chinese
200
army.
million
Chinese Communist Army, yeah. The people's, what is it? The people's, dang, my brain is so foggy today. I can't remember anything. Shoot. All right. Well, let's move on to the next story, Gons. Money, money, money.
I think, hold on. Let me play this jingle. I think this is the jingle I was looking for to support, or not support, but as part of this article too.
But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be.
There you go.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Intel Spider, on the chat. advanced
Too simple of a word to have
into a weird
slouching more and more throughout the episode. So I like set you up at a certain point, and then you just get lower and lower and lower. Like you're
we
slowly...
go for like 3 hours nowadays, man. That's tough.
It's just funny. It's funny how you just by the end it's just the googly eyes barely over your name tag there. But okay.
All right, let's go into this article. NPR dart.
He's losing it, folks.
Yeah, the mind control is complete.
I don't have any money.
Okay, let's try that again. NPR.org. The article is titled Nearly $1.4 billion in coronavirus relief payments sent to dead people, guys.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The IRS sent nearly $1.4 billion in coronavirus relief payments to dead Americans. A new report by an independent government agency shows. What is an independent government agency?
Every government agency?
That sounds like a
private entity, a central intelligence agency.
Sounds like the word that means the opposite things that I can't remember right now. Oh, come on, chat. Help me out here. Independent government. You can't have an independent government agency if it's
like
private in the government, it's not independent.
Yeah.
And if it's independent, it's not in the government.
It's central intelligence.
Okay. The government.
It's an easier way to say central intelligence without saying it. Okay, go ahead.
I disagree. I think it's lies. I think it's full of lies. The IRS sent nearly $1.4 billion in coronavirus relief payments to dead Americans, a new report by an independent government agency shows. The Government Accountability Office said the error involved over 106 million payments worth nearly two. Yep. One. Okay. I'm losing my patience, guys. Losing my patience.
You were pretty impatient before we went live too, but I was a little hyped up too.
I've got this thing. It keeps screwing me up. So usually, when I got this VR helmet on and I'm looking around, the world stays stationary. But occasionally today, the whole world, like it just happened there, the whole world will start moving with me. It's very disorienting.
Oh, you need to reset.
Yeah, I know. Oxymoron. Thank you. One Mr. Rogers. That's what I was saying. Independent government agency is an oxymoron.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. The Government Accountability Office said the error involved almost 1.1 million checks and direct deposits sent to ineligible Americans. The payments were part of the coronavirus aid package passed in March, known as the CARES Act. So far, the IRS has dispersed over 160 million payments worth nearly $270 billion to people for coronavirus relief. The improper payments happened because of confusion over whether dead people should receive payments. The GAO report concludes confusion. In the hectic early days, as the IRS was preparing to send out millions of payments, the Tax Bureau bypassed established protocols, declined to use available death records, and did not clearly communicate with the Treasury Department, which oversees its work. The IRS did not use those death records, which are maintained by the Social Security Administration, for the first 3 batches of coronavirus relief payments, which account for 72% of the money dispensed to date. The IRS had developed a process in 2013 to use death records to prevent improper payments to dead people. It bypassed these controls for coronavirus relief payments, the GAO found. Initially, the IRS was unclear about whether the law permitted it to deny relief payments to the deceased. This is the government work at its finest. Initially, the IRS was unclear about whether the law permitted it to deny relief payments to the deceased. The IRS was unclear if it should send money to dead people.
Well, there you go. This is the people we give half our money to every year that we earn.
This is crazy, dude. I don't know. Should we send money to this dead guy? I just really don't know. And the Treasury Department was unaware the payments may go to decedents, the GAO found. It was It wasn't until later, after the Treasury Department realized that payments had been made to dead people, that it determined in conjunction with legal counsel that those who had died as of the date of the payment were not eligible for relief money. Whoa! Thanks, Treasury Department and legal counsel. What is going on over there? An NPR investigation.
It's Mnuchin over there, the Treasury Department.
It is Mnuchin. That's crazy.
Standing there with his giant sheet of $100 bills with his signature on it.
This is the wildest article. This just shows the complete incompetence of the Treasury Department and the IRS. They're not sure if they're legally permitted to deny money to dead people. And it took the Treasury Department and their legal counsel to determine whether it was whether they should send money to dead people, checks written out to dead people. An NPR investigation in May found that Americans who had died as early as January 2018, they'd been dead for 2 years and got checks from the IRS. In response to NPR's story, a bipartisan group of lawmakers demanded answers from the Treasury Department and the IRS about how many dead Americans received the payments and what steps government will take to recover the improperly dispensed money. Quote, while it is essential that our constituents receive stimulus payments quickly, these improper payments to deceased individuals represent significant government waste and a burden to constituents who mistakenly accept the payments, the lawmaker said in a letter. Yeah, mistakenly accepted the payments. The Treasury Department.
I have a defense after you're done here.
Okay.
I'm gonna play the devil's advocate for a moment.
Okay. The Treasury Department previously told NPR that payments made to people who died in the coronavirus relief payment was received should be returned to the government. The IRS has published instructions on its website for how to return payments. In its report, the Government Accountability Office said the IRS should consider ways of actively notifying ineligible.
Wait,
this is crazy.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Stop for a second. Slow down. I'm going to read this nice and slow for everybody. In its report, the Government Accountability Office said the IRS should consider ways of actively notifying ineligible recipients about how to return improperly dispensed payments. The Government Accountability Office said the IRS should consider ways of actively notifying dead people about how to return money to the government. What is going on?
Oh, I haven't laughed this hard on the show in a while, but
this is the wildest story in the world. This makes me giddy with happiness to know that not only is the incompetence of the government sending money to dead people, but there's a serious investigation in how to let those dead people know how to send the money back.
There's only one thing that there's okay, this is the explanation, okay? The government, the Trump crew there, they figured out how, number one, how to communicate with dead people. And number two, he plans on resurrecting everybody because
we will launch a new age.
That's why we're in the new age, man.
We need some psychics. We need some necromancers. We need some mediums. We need to talk to these dead people and get our money back. Oh my gosh!
We should,
wow.
That would be hilarious if like a bunch of our tax money went to like ghost hunters or something to try to seek out these, go to their graves and stuff and try to communicate with them.
And I love, part of it is just how this thing is written.
Yeah,
because,
it is. It's NPR.
Of course, I don't know. I mean, of course, maybe they're trying to say notify the family members about the wrong payments. But why wouldn't you just say that? Like, just say the families of the dead people. Oh my gosh. I loved, where was it? I gotta go back. This is a gem of an article. I will be very sad if they edit this and fix it. Oh man. No, I can't find it. That speaks for itself.
You have to know that I don't know. Editors at NPR, is this?
No, I don't even think. I mean, who knows? It's kind of seems like this is just what they were told. A lot of this is in quotes.
Yeah,
that is true. This is quotes from the government.
Oh,
all right,
man.
There you go. Well, so there you go. Watch out, dead people. They're coming to get those mistakenly cashed checks that you cashed. And don't forget to vote in the election.
Gosh,
this November, get out there and vote.
I don't know how to follow any of that. I mean, this
is great.
Okay,
all right.
Along the same lines, this is involving the government. So anything we do has to just your confidence in the government should wane here. But this makes all the more troubling the types of stuff they're trying to pass over there in Washington.
Blockchain.
And this is a story by Cointelegraph.com. New bill to outlaw encryption without government backdoor in U.S. Senate. Oy, oy, oy. We covered this bill, I think, a little bit when they first proposed it here. But it says here, a bill that would outlaw end-to-end encryption for technology companies was proposed by 3 Republican senators. Meanwhile, Ava and Cardano would not yield. Of course, it's a crypto thing, so Ava and Cardano both being crypto projects out there. 3 Republican senators introduced a bill to end warrant-proof encryption on June 23rd. It invokes national security as a pretext for requiring device manufacturers and service providers to assist law enforcement by providing access to encrypted data. Pedophiles and national security. The Lawful Access of Encrypted Data Act is sponsored by Lindsey Graham, Tom Cotton, and Marsha Blackburn. According to GovTrack, all 3 senators score high on the conservativeness scale, with Blackburn receiving a perfect 1.00. Graham is also one of the sponsors of the Earn It Act, which many privacy advocates heavily criticized for what they perceived as encroaching on personal freedoms under the guise of protecting children from sexual abuse. It is not clear why Graham and his colleagues felt the need to propose a bill that, on the surface, seems to have similar goals to the Earn It Act, stripping the individuals of rights to use privacy-preserving technology while forcing technology companies to become even more responsive to the state's whims. Perhaps the idea is that at least one of the cards that the bill plays, national security or child welfare, will get the job done. The press release says that the proposed legislation, quote, would bring an end to warrant-proof encryption in devices, platforms, and systems, a debate that has raged for years. Also, it stresses that companies would be required to cooperate with the authorities only after a warrant is issued by the court. Quote, the bill would require service providers and device manufacturers to provide assistance. I think this is already... Okay, we already read that part. If this bill ever gets passed, the crypto industry might be especially affected. Cryptographic algorithms are at the core of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. On the other hand, the decentralized nature of many projects in the space may make the industry better prepared. And it goes into Ava and Cardano. We don't have to get into that, Basil, but those are both big projects on what they're doing. I will quote Charles Hoskinson, which, by the way, Cardano has a lot of super occult names for all their technology. They have the Ouroboros and just every type of occult thing you can think of, and a lot of it they say is just an homage to some of the old thinkers and stuff. But they always say that.
Right.
Charles Hoskinson said, "Quote: No, I will stop working on these systems if legally forced to do so." And Roger Ver, who's part of Bitcoin Cash, expressed skepticism that political laws have the power to solve what essentially is a math problem. No amount of violence can solve a math problem, and I think that's a great way of looking at it. So politicians can pass all the bills they want, but it doesn't change the way math works. So no amount of political law making or violence can solve a math problem. Meanwhile, Attorney General William P. Barr issued a statement strongly supporting the act, pointing out that warrant-proof encryption allows, quote, criminals to operate with impunity, and that given the COVID-19 lockdown, it could be a time liar.
It could not be
timelier.
timelier.
It could not be timelier. Oh my gosh. I think your brain farts are like starting to come over to my end now. Okay, and the quote is, the danger is particularly great for children who are targeted online for sexual exploitation, especially during this time of coronavirus lockdown. Survivors of child sex abuse and their families have pleaded with technology companies to do more to prevent predators from exploiting their platforms to harm children. We cannot allow these companies to elevate their profits and the privacy rights of these abusers over the safety and security of children. The likelihood of this bill passing will be greatly impacted by November elections. And, this brings up a really challenging topic of, and we've brought it up before on, I think, our interview with Brad from Unstoppable Domains, but you value privacy, but how do you make sure, or how do you provide legal stance to go after those who are actually doing horrific things like child trafficking?
Right.
And so that's the debate here, because if you allow, and especially when it comes to tech, it's really challenging because, you have some gatekeeping going on with the companies. And in the case of centralized companies, I mean, I think if they have a warrant, they should give up some of the information. Obviously that could be abused, and it works both ways. But in terms of
a warrant's a warrant. The biggest problem with, what the big tech companies have gotten into the habit of doing lately is handing over information and access without a warrant.
Right. Yeah. And
just at the request of a law enforcement agency.
Yeah. And then what do you do if you have a hunch about people actually, doing illegal things using the technology platforms?
That's the thing too. A hunch doesn't quite do it.
That's what I'm saying. That's the difficult part.
I think, that is kind of the balance, Of course, the privacy people, of which I think we are both, privacy connoisseurs, just generally as a human right, we have a right to privacy, is an important thing. And I mean, in order to get a warrant, you need an actual judge, you need to present evidence to a judge. You need to give them a good reason why you want to go into a house, or in this case, get into a computer or whatever the case may be. And then, it's handed over to the legal system. Now, in my personal idealistic utopia, would there be complete personal privacy? I don't want anybody getting into anything, no matter what. Idealistically, but it's just not really realistic. Of course, warrants exist for a reason, and as long as they're being, legally handled and legally acquired, then the law enforcement should be able to enforce laws.
Right.
But that being said, I don't think you. And then that does hand over the situation to the gatekeeper. Like if they want to get to your Apple account or something, bring your warrant to Apple, or even better, just bring it to the person. Have them, let them into your phone. But it's when there's back doors and they can just get in there and spy and not need a warrant, and et cetera, et cetera. That's where the big problem is.
And that's part of the issue with this bill, is that they're basically saying like, hey, we don't want government backdoors. We just want everything to be way out in the open.
Right.
And that's a problem in itself too. So it's a difficult thing. This is a challenging issue that I think not enough people are really talking about with big tech.
And the one thing you can guarantee is that the government doesn't want to grant you privacy. When William Barr gets into it, he doesn't want you to have privacy. He wants access to every piece of information because that empowers his department to, do whatever they want. So of course that's going to happen.
Right. He wants the if you're not doing anything illegal, you have nothing to worry about mentality to persist and be the mindset of people that would support a bill like this. But I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's
we got Rice Dude 75 in the chat asks, need 70 viewers? We do need 70 viewers.
Yeah,
so
we're
thank
down.
you, Rice
We're down
Dude. Bring them
today.
over, bro.
Yeah, people are doing their Friday night thing now.
Yeah, I know. The numbers are going down. It's about bedtime, I think, for some people.
Yeah.
So no, that's an issue. And of course, with the conversation surrounding blockchain and the encryption, I mean, that's a conversation that's been going on for a while now. There's been some great regulation and deregulation across the country on a state level, allowing for blockchain development to go on without too much government interference, which is great. But of course, once the feds get involved, you're going to start losing a lot of those nice freedoms and securities that you have as a citizen.
Yeah. It's the
kind
double-edged sword of
through.
the open source.
And of course, I mean, it needs to be mentioned. Of course, this act being put in the context of pedophilia and child sexual abuse, which of course everybody wants to stop that.
Yeah.
And I mean, to a degree that it's impossible to say no to this. But on the other hand, that's a very manipulative thing. It's like a lot of different technologies, of course, being brought in for medical purposes, brought in for, to better the lives of people. Of course, we want the government to do as much as they can to stop child trafficking and pornography and things like that. And you know what? Maybe this is a good way to do that as well. But government, there's a lot of stuff you should be doing that you're not doing. Yeah. In those criminal circles. I mean, do I need to mention Jeffrey Epstein? Do we need to even go there? I mean, a whole island for the purpose of abusing children with whole flight logs of elite Americans flying there. How has that just sort of dissipated? Oh, I guess because of coronavirus and race riots and elections and things like that.
Himself.
Yeah.
Since you brought him up. And yeah. So that's an ongoing issue. And I think this, it just goes to show that no matter what, it's the totalitarian one world government, type of thing is looming, and it's just creeping up, and it does so in different spurts, and it does so in a way that makes it for your common citizen. It is going to be the eroding of our freedoms, whatever freedoms we had left. I mean, I think a lot of it is an illusion of freedom at this point. And who knows how much, if you really kind of think back, in the era of technology, in the era of the internet, a lot of those freedoms have been obsolete in a sense, with technology being the great equalizer for everything. And so it's kind of one of those issues where you're using the tech, so you don't necessarily have all your freedoms in a natural sort of way if you're leaving a digital trail everywhere, Right. But anyway, those are things to bring up. And I wanted to bring this article up because it's an interesting issue, and it taps into the conversation about things like Bitcoin, which is pseudo-anonymous. So it's every transaction ever has been recorded on a blockchain. It's public. Mm-hmm. However, you don't know who owns all those addresses and all that Bitcoin. Some you do a little bit if you publicly oust yourself, but
there's forensics now where they can do the best
chain
they can
analysis
in a lot of cases.
Yeah, which is kind of frightening as well. But in any case, let's go on to the last story here.
Yes.
And the jingle for that is...
It will kill. It will kill. Now, this one I just wanted to run through and end the show on because it's been floating around, and I spent quite a bit of time looking into it myself. So I thought we'd talk about it here.
Detective Basil.
Yes, hit the interesting notes, maybe do a little bit of debunking. We'll see what happens. So this is a dailymail.co.uk, but it is showing up everywhere. I chose this one because they included some details that a lot of other outlets did not include. And of course, in true Daily Mail fashion, we've got a paragraph of the headline. So Revealed New Jersey girl 8, her mother 33, and grandfather 62 drowned in backyard swimming pool when the child got into difficulty and both adults tried to save her despite not being able to swim just weeks after they moved into the home. Daily Mail, you guys are crazy over there with your headlines. A New Jersey girl, her mother, and her grandfather all drowned in their home pool after the adults reportedly jumped in and tried to save the struggling youngster. Bharat Patel, 62, his daughter-in-law Nisha Patel, 33, and her daughter, named by neighbors as 8-year-old Sachi, were found... Why named by neighbors? Anyways, were found unresponsive in the backyard of their new home in East Brunswick on Monday. The medical examiner's office said Tuesday all 3 victims drowned and the manner of death was accidental. Sources told NBC the 8-year-old girl got into trouble in an underground section of the above-ground pool thought to be up to 7 feet deep. Her aunt is then said to have called for help before both Bharat Patel and the youngster's mom Nisha, neither of whom could swim, jumped in to try to save her. They all got into difficulty and the aunt jumped in, pulling Sachi from the water, but not before she had drowned, according to reports. Officials have also now this is, keep in mind, just pay attention. Officials have also confirmed electrocution was not a factor in their deaths. Okay. Neighbors had suggested the family may have been electrocuted. One eyewitness told CBS an electrician's truck showed up shortly thereafter. But a police spokesman told DailyMail.com electrocution was not a factor. The family are understood to have bought the 5-bedroom home within the last month for $451,000. Not sure why the price is important, but they are said to have only just serviced the pool ready for summer and were excited to use it. News 12 New Jersey reports. Concerned neighbors called the cops after hearing screaming from the property shortly after 4 p.m. on Monday afternoon. Loved ones were pictured being consoled. In the aftermath, they found 3 family members unresponsive in the pool. The family were pronounced dead in the backyard, NBC reports. Neighbor Vishal Makin told the network, "We are from the same part of India. We spoke the same language also." After the family had their pool serviced, Makin said, "We were so excited for them. It's the right weather. You should get it done. And it's just a bad, sad day." Brunswick Police Chief Frank Losacco said Monday, "This is a devastating day for our entire community." So a couple interesting things here. First of all, of course, you got 33, the magic number popped up, which, is always a pay attention moment. And then there started to be stories floating around about Nisha Patel, the 33-year-old in this case, Nisha Patel being an employee or a contractor for the Gates Foundation, which, of course, rang some bells. And, you add the fact that why was this electrocution? They weren't electrocuted. Why is that such a big deal? And popping up in every article written about this, so very interesting. Why are you making such a big point that they weren't electrocuted? Now, some interesting things. Why this family just recently, they had been in this house for 20 days. None of them could swim. None of them admittedly could swim, yet they had this big swimming pool and they were excited to use it. So a little weird, but okay, it's okay. You can still enjoy a swimming pool, but it's just strange, I guess. Now, there's a lot of people talking about Nisha Patel working for the Bill Gates Foundation. I did spend actually quite a bit of time running around trying to track down Nisha Patel. There's a lot of Nisha Patels in America. Let me say that first. There are so many Nisha Patels. There is a Nisha Patel who works at the Gates Foundation, but there are also Nisha Patels that work everywhere. This Nisha Patel at the Gates Foundation does look like she would be around 33 years old. So the age does kind of match her pictures.
I know her real age now. The Bill and Gates Foundation one.
Which one? Oh, did you find it?
I did, yeah. This just published while we were on air.
Of
this
course.
Is Lead Stories publishing a fact check Nisha Patel, once employed by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, did not drown in a New Jersey pool. And
okay,
do you want? I'll let you finish your thing, and then I'll.
Yeah. No, that's great because that's good. I'm glad those reports are coming out because those reports, as we know now, weren't out as this at the starting of this show, where I just checked because I found her on LinkedIn. I found the Gates Foundation, Nisha Patel, found her on LinkedIn, and she had made a post the day after this horrible event. So there you go. I knew it wasn't her unless, of course, you can use some apps, third-party apps to like schedule posts. But barring that possibility, she had posted on her LinkedIn after this incident. But how old is the Nisha Patel at the Gates Foundation? You said
45.
Oh, 45. Wow, she's pretty good looking for 45. So, yeah, but there you go. 33 obviously rang some alarm bells. I saw this spreading all over the internet. And this just to debunk, because you probably going to see this posted around, trying to connect this strange thing that happened to the Gates Foundation. And of course, the conspiracy theories will spiral from there. But as of now, there's no reason to think that that conspiracy theory is true. So there you go. Basil debunked.
Yep. And Lead Stories agrees with you. It says here in the article titled Fact Check, the Nisha Patel, once employed by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, did not drown in a New Jersey pool. She is 45, lives in Washington, D.C., and got into this sort of work, which is she's pretty well established.
Non-profit work.
Yeah, pretty big time work. When the Nisha Patel, who passed away on June 22nd, was only an adolescent, this Nisha Patel, the one rumored to have died, had this to say in an email to Lead Stories, quote, "Please let your readers and the world know that as of June 26, 2020, I am alive and well. There are multiple people named Nisha Patel in the U.S., and I'm just one of them, which is why I often use my middle initial G across public platforms. Many of the inquiries I've gotten across social media this week are bizarre and disturbing based on media reports. In a pinned tweet, only available to followers, she thanked people for their concerns, assured them that she was fine, and extended her condolences to the family that suffered the loss of her namesake. She included a quote from Mark Twain that reads, quote, "The reports of my death are greatly exaggerated." And so there you go. She's toying with it a little bit, but
there you go.
Yeah. So not the same Nisha Patel, although obviously people are going to, bring their conspiracy theories to the table when it comes to this sort of thing. And, I'm sure we'll hear part of it.
I think we just got ahead of this one, and we don't need to let this one spiral out of control. So I
am wondering how
they're excited about a pool, underestimated the dangers of going into a pool without knowing how to swim, and the tragedy unfolds from there. But one thing for sure, if you believe the official story, electrocution did not play a role.
I almost died of electrocuting pool.
That's crazy. How does that happen?
You have crazy swim coaches that think that training during a thunderstorm is a good idea.
The old lightning in the pool trick.
The lightning bolt hit the giant. We had these stadium lights where I was training at the time, and it was an Olympic-sized pool, so there was a lot of people in the pool. And when the lightning and thunder started, all the little kids got out. It makes sense. But of course, by that point, I was in the senior group, and nothing stops us from putting our training in. And then the lightning bolt, I remember seeing it. The lightning bolt hit the giant light posts, like the big, like the stadium style lighting. And I saw the lightning bolt jump from one light stand to the next, to the next, to the next, and the entire place just went dark. And everyone screamed, and we all jumped out of the water and ran to the locker room.
Oh, that's gnarly.
And it was the first time that the boys and girls both ran into either locker room. It was kind of funny, actually.
Run for your lives.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, 20, 30 feet maybe difference, and you would have had a big story about how, Like 100 people died in a pool.
That's nuts.
With a coach probably going to jail or something.
Canary Cry would be so lonely without you, Gonzo.
I know.
All right, what do you think? Is that enough for today?
That's enough.
It looks like we're a little bit past your time here, so we got to get out of here.
Gotta roll.
Okie dokie. Sounds good. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Remember, we are still on the value for value model. This is the real world, people. Get used to it. If you support the show financially, you are a producer of the show. So remember us for next time. Go to patreon.com/CCNT for Canary Cry News Talk. That's patreon.com/CCNT. Sign up, support the show. There's rewards, bonus episodes, all sorts of fun stuff going on over there. Plus, you'll make Gonz and I feel all warm and fuzzy, and we'll shout you out on the show. Remember Sir Edward. Thank you so much for Sir Edward, the new knight of the Canary Cry Roundtable. We thank you so much. That's right. And we hope you enjoy the spread we've got out for you there, Sir Edward. And you too can work your way towards knighthood or damehood. Don't forget that. Damehood or knighthood. You can make it there, and it'll be fun. So head over to patreon.com/CCNT, or if you don't like Patreon, you can go to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right. And over there, you got some PayPal options. You've got monthly support or one-time donations, as well as cryptocurrency and all sorts of fun stuff there. So thank you very much for those producers who joined up this last week. And we look forward to calling out and honoring more producers next week. Now, here's the thing. Remember, there's lots of ways to support the show. One of them is creating jingles for the show. Or art. If you're a creative person, if you're a graphic designer or an artist, send us your Canary Cry Radio themed art. You can send that to canarycryradio@gmail.com. Or if you are a little bit of one of those crazy musician type people, you can create a jingle for a topic or something on the show, as well as full-on songs. Remember, we'll be playing the Canary Cry mixtape at the end of the show, so stick around to hear that. And if you got anything creative to send us, send it to canarycryradio@gmail.com. We appreciate that very much. Now, remember, we're trying to get to 100 reviews. Not just ratings, but reviews over on Apple Podcasts there. So if you got it in you, head to Apple Podcasts and leave a review of Canary Cry News Talk. That'll be very fun. We're trying to hit 100. That'll be a nice big nice goal to hit there. I'm going to check real quick to see if we got any during the show. But, I understand if you were so enthralled by the show that you didn't get a chance to go over and leave a rating or a review. Wow, my whole virtual reality world is crumbling around me, so I have no control over anything. So okay. I'll have to check that next time. But also, remember, one of the best ways to support the show is to grab an episode, share it with a friend or family member. You got people you love who are waking up and they just need some guidance. So you can send them one of these episodes and we'll help them on their way. And if you need any help figuring out how to do that, here's step 1. You walk right up to him. Step 2, you grab him by the cage and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right, just ask Noah.
Just like it on the background flushing noise. It just adds a little.
Extra flushing noise. Very good. All right, Gonz, any last words?
Just a heads up, only one show next week. So make sure to tune in. It'll be Wednesday. I don't remember I don't have a calendar what date that'll be, but it'll be Wednesday. And sorry, but
Stuff. stuff going
in
on.
life. Yeah.
Stuff going on. We tried to work around it, but there is no workaround. So
July
next
1st.
show will.
So this is the last show in June. How crazy is that?
Crazy. Time just keeps on ticking, Gons.
Yep. Unless you're you.
All right.
And then it goes backwards and forwards and sideways and all kinds of ways.
Well, there you go, folks. Remember to tune in July 1st on Wednesday. We'll be doing another show sometime between noon and 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So make sure to tune in then. Remember to stick around for the Canary Cry mixtape at the end. And make sure to tune in next time to Canary Cry News Talk. But until then, all together now, think outside the cage.
We will launch a new age.
It's gotta be biblical.
I want to shake things up, shake things up. I want to shake things up, shake things up. Leave the bird alone. I want to stir up some controversy. I want to rattle a few cages. I want to rattle a few cages. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. A crusader for the little guy. Little guy. Little guy. Well, we'll see about that.
Whatever, Illuminati.
You are entering a dimension of sound. You carefully come in through the threshold with wonder, yet skepticism. You see the faint shape of an outline of a robot arm petting a cat. You faintly hear the haunting sounds of a man playing a tambourine. The sound augments into two men playing with a soundboard. You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Stay a while and listen. And now, where Nephilim news meets biblical views, you'll find broken memes and shattered dreams. Give it up for Basil and Gons.
Don't let me go into the archives and find out what I told you. I tell you something. People call me everything under the sun, accuse me of lying and everything else. I try to give you a heads up. I warn you. And then months later, when I'm right, everybody forgets. I said this months ago. I said this months ago. I tried to tell y'all this is what was happening. I tried to tell you heads are gonna roll. I tried to tell you it's chaos. It's a mess. I tried to tell you and nobody wanted to listen. Do y'all hear me now? Is it clear? I tried to tell y'all it's getting ugly. It's a mess. I tried to tell y'all. I tried to tell you. Nobody wanted to listen. And now you see folks scurrying. I mean, I tried to tell you. You know how many times I'll say something months in advance and then it comes to fruition and then y'all forget I reported. See, they're going to have breaking news like it's news. You know what the news was today? I tried to tell you. But nobody wanted to listen.
In the future, humans will be confined in a people's zoo.
People, I'll keep you safe and warm in my people's zoo. I'll keep you safe and warm now in my people's zoo. You, yeah, you in my people's zoo. I'll keep the cameras on. People's Zoo.